Cool.
Cool. Hey, so I am actually recording. So I record that whole little first
Nice.
part there.
Nice.
Uh, um, so I'm just gonna roll right into hello everybody. This welcome to the channel. This is my buddy. I'm gonna say Don, or do we go by the how we doing the naming convention?
I go by both Brandon and Don, but I go by Don in these stage name like pretenses. So please, Don it
And
is.
Don, it is, and I'll link to your Instagram, and you can give me all your social stuff, and I'll link it down below to the video so everyone can check out
Perfect.
your content and what you're doing, which is pretty cool. And that's why we're here to talk to you. I'm looking at my screen because that's how I can see you. Otherwise, I'm just
Right.
looking at this
No, that's
black
fair.
hole of a camera lens.
Right. The
Um,
laptop up and downs.
yeah. So yeah. So that's actually another question. So one of the first things I had on the questions here is, I guess, actually, let's start with who are you? Like what and why do you go by Don? Like how'd you pick the stage name? So two-part question. Who is Brandon, aka the Don? And
Yeah.
and what do you do?
Fair question to start with. Well, I am a musician first and foremost, trying to be a human in all other aspects of life, right? And other than that, I'm a guitarist. I also play bass, keys, trumpet in the studio, but I primarily use my guitar to play both in live and recorded session aspects, and I also produce. And I've always been a guitarist. I've played for about 20 years now. I started when I was 7. So now I've been gigging for the last 10 years professionally. So performances for money, and
Hmm.
that's a bit of a trip to think it's been a decade already, but it's feels like uh, every day and no day has passed at the same time. So time is a construct here, and it's beautiful to have music bridge those aspects. And where the Don kind of came into play, it was a bit of a college Fortnite nickname. I had Don Braven as my account name, and
Nice.
everybody just started calling me the Don after that. I'm like, that is the more fun aspect of my name. So in the need of a stage name, when I started producing and releasing music of my
Hmm.
own collaborations under my name, I didn't want to go with Brandon Craven. I didn't want to go my full name. I just wanted something spunky, a little different, but still close enough. So fun half the name, Don. Otherwise, what? Bran, Raisin
Yeah.
Bran. Not much good context there universally. So the
Don.
duality is something I'm still exploring, but
Fair.
it's certainly a fun way to explore. I'm Brandon when I'm recording guitar,
Hmm.
or just kind of in the studio with somebody. But then when we're releasing things, getting on stage, having more of a namesake to it, having more eyes on what we're doing, then it becomes Don, because that's where I label all my artistic entities as. Does that make sense?
It does. And is there's like you mentioned the duality of that. Like, does that ever get confusing, or does it do people? Because like I know, not that I'm a big person like whatever, but I'll go to places and people will be like Tyler's eclectic, which it's easier for me, be like for you too as well, because like in the some sense, right? You can sometimes say Dawn, but like my name is in my screen name, right? So it's easier for me to adjust to that. Like, but how about for you? Has that ever become a problem, or not a problem, but like just like
Yeah.
what's the duality there?
It's a fair question. It's something I'm still working on for sure. I recently kind of started calling myself Don because I recently started putting out music within the last 2 years now.
Mhm.
My first solo release was in March 2023, but I had been working on tracks beforehand, and I'd just been listed as a writer as Brandon Craven, and I go by that when I'm just a writer on a track. When I just
Mhm.
play guitar in the studio and it's not like a full feature, then at that point it's just Brandon, my name. But then when I do have more production and more of my voice involved and more credits than just quick writing, pay to play, it's how I go about the gig, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So if people want to call me in a performative service providing aspect, I usually just go by my name. But when it's like, hey, we need to collaborate artistically, combine our voices, you bring some of your sauce to the table, that's usually when it comes into play. So uh, and whenever I'm on stage performing, I ask to go by the Don, just because that's what I've titled my Instagram and artistic. Um,
Endeavors.
yes, yeah. So it's as you said with Tyler's eclectic, it's got to have a parallel, but it's close enough to my name too that I think that also confuses people. Don, who's Brandon. It's the same person. It's the guitar playing producer who, yeah, right, right. Can't see this. No, but yeah, it's been a fascinating exercise in branding, and I realized early on Don wasn't going to have good SEO, and I didn't really want any great
Yeah, I feel
SEO.
it.
It sounds deprecatory, but I feel like I wanted people to find my music by finding it, and
Yeah.
like, or it finding them, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was gonna say, sorry to interrupt you, man. Like I was gonna say that aspect of what you just said really resonates with me as well because that's something that I find like I like as well. Like I want the community to be like a grassroots thing, right? Where
yeah,
it's a natural progression, and then the people that are there actually want to be there. It's not just because
right.
you're whatever, or like they're there because they're there for the community aspect, or they're there to actually engage or be, you know what I mean? Like I love that. Like something that's always resonated with me. Sorry to
That's a great
interrupt.
point. No, you're all good. You're all good. This we're having a convo. I'm from the Midwest, so that's how conversations go. We hop in as needed.
I
No,
got
you're
ADHD, so it's a thing.
same thing, right? But regional conditions,
Just get this down.
uh, regional conditions. But yeah, I do realize now that I've networked with a newer generation of Denver musicians where I'm located.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of people know me as Don in some of my newer collaborations, but a lot of my OG college friends who I met out here and have been working with for years, they still call me Brandon. So I think there is a bit of confusion with the name when it comes between those. Of course, the circle's rather tight out here,
Mhm.
and people, of course, interact. And who's Brandon, who's Don, but I think everybody who knows knows, and that's what I
Uh-huh.
wanted. I just wanted people
Mhm.
who are in the know to be in the know, and for that to be maybe that's my mystique, accidental mystique. There we go.
I
It's
love
not
it.
an
I love it.
extraordinary. No, uh,
You get a
but
little
yeah,
cape and you're
exactly.
just
Maha. Yes, yeah. But
what was that old movie like Darkwing Duck or like
oh my gosh,
or like the Shadow Knows.
I was thinking Nosferatu.
When Nosferatu too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
fair. I was going a little more good guy, but if you want to be the
you're all
villain, I'm here for it, man.
right. Hey, whatever era we're in, that's
Exactly. Hey, I'm in my villain era or trying to get there. I do also want to touch on which is really fun. Like I want to touch on some of the stuff you just talked about as well, but
Mhm.
I wanted to kind of preload before we get to like your discussions with the artists you're working with, that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
with how we met. Like so that's actually kind of an interesting story in and of itself to some level. We met through a mutual friend, and it kind of sparked, and then there's some surprising parallel or like connections that we have that you actually, even though you're in Colorado or whatnot,
mhm.
you actually come out to literally my neighborhood.
Down the street, down the street.
Yeah.
You live across the street from where my parents now live in their empty nesting glory. They'd hate that I called it that, but that's what it is. Let's be honest. And they're stoked to be living on their own. And back in Washington too. I was originally born near Seattle,
Hmm.
and I'd always wanted to move back. That's the whole reason I'm in Denver. But after I graduated college here, I was seeing Denver as a stepping stone to get out to Washington. I just kind of realized Denver's got everything I realized I wanted, and I've
Yeah.
stuck around here just to continue the business connections I had already created and move those over to Seattle gradually. And I think that's still in the cards at some point in life, but
Hmm.
I'm not so much in a rush anymore. And with that
That's good.
aspect of life landing me in Denver, keeping my eye towards Washington, it was serendipitous that we met because we had a mutual friend, Sebastian
Seb.
Chu, who introduced us at. Uh,
Can Jam? Was it Can Jam
Yes,
New
New York.
York?
New York. Yeah, he was 21 or 22, but one of
Yeah.
those years. You were at the head amp booth. You were super quiet. Had your badass tattoo sleeves out with the beanie. I was like, "Hey, this guy's on something. I can't. He's on some business here. He's with the heavy cat, so I can't infiltrate these circles just with my jolly smile and
Little did you know.
right, amiable conversation. But then I think I followed your Instagram. I had gotten in touch as I typically do, just saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, great to meet you." And we realized you lived down the street from my parents. Next time
Mhm.
I saw my parents, we hung out,
Yeah, yeah.
and
That's
here
right.
we are.
We had a huge we did that, was that Thanksgiving? Was that following year? And we did like I inundated you and your lady friend with lots of booze, I think is what
Hey, that
happened.
was appreciated, though. That was very much appreciated. Let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Yeah, man. That was a good time. But yeah, so that was it was through at the time you were working with iFi or
Yes.
Iffy
Oh,
iFi.
excuse me.
I always say
Yeah.
Iffy and it's wrong, but iFi. Uh,
It's definitely I-Fi, or IFI. I
uh
just say hi-fi without the H because I think that's where the naming came from. But
Makes way more sense than what my
yeah,
brain was.
you're good. It was super rewarding work to work for them after college because I was full of that confusion. I graduated in 2021 from CU Denver. I had a guitar
Mhm.
performance and music business degree. So while I had a nice complementary dual emphasis, I didn't really know where to go with that, and I didn't expect for there to be loads of gigs just lobbed my way.
Mhm.
But I knew I'd have to work to find them. It's just in that post-pandemic atmosphere of 2021, what was up, what was down. I mean, businesses.
It's kind of weird. It was a weird
Yeah,
place.
yeah. Everywhere was still figuring out what their stick was. So
Yeah.
for me to kind of discover mine in that, it was a lot of reaching out to connections like Sebastian Seb,
Mhm.
who I had worked at in college with, and going from there, they needed a PR and marketing person. I started in customer support, answering tickets, as we were talking about earlier, and moved on to Reddit and Gearspace and more like online community management style PR, which was a fascinating angle. I've
Mhm.
never been one for the internet, but which
Yeah.
is hilarious to say. But
You
I'm
old
just not
soul.
super duper tech savvy. Yeah, there we go. That's a positive spin. I'm an old soul, so it was a really good learning curve for me to get a little more hip to how these different subcultures exist and how beautiful those inward relationships can be. I've still seen some of
Mhm.
these audio cats out and about on online or in different areas, and just seeing that kind of if you never burn a bridge in life,
Uh,
you'll always have open doors to
exactly.
associate with people.
My dad was big on that too. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
never shut a door unless you have to." Right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
um, and actually, a kind of follow up question to that, and this is hopefully I have a bunch of questions I've been writing in my very cool purple notebook
Hey,
here.
yeah.
Um, but I do this is a little extra one, a little bit, but in the sense of because I kind of sparked to something when you're talking about working at iFi, um, was the thought process of like how did that influence where you? I mean, it's gonna be a little bit weird, but like where you are now, like how did those experiences kind of propel you to where you are now, which is basically full time music making, right? Like you're basically, I mean, that's it's a real thing. So you went from being in a completely different part of the industry. Like, let's be real, this is like the niche audiophile music gear, let's call it gear acquisition syndrome part of the
Gassy.
industry, the gassy part of music industry,
Yeah,
to the actual production, making and playing of music. Like how do you think that informed where you are today, like in the sense of moving from that part of the industry to the actual industry part that you want to be in and are in now?
totally. To condense it, it was a bit of a happy accident and some blissful ignorance. And like I said, coming out of college, 2021, post pandemic, I was grabbing any opportunity I could at the time. This sounded as close to the music as I could get coming out of college, working with audio products that were kind of on the consumer and hi-fi end, but they wanted to bridge into the music making market, and they knew I'm a music maker,
Hmm.
and iFi approached me as, hey, can you translate our product to value for music makers? And while I was discovering that, I just discovered that I think there was a misconception that this market was going to be a little more like the pro market, with pro audio gear, but it's a little more, hi-fi, consumer, and pro have their own silos of
Hmm.
it's like a niche market
And there's
within the
niches
space.
inside of those, even like.
Oh yeah, for sure. So to be a music maker, treading across these disciplines of audio lovers, whether they're just hi-fi enthusiasts or just like their nice IEMs and some mobile on-the-go clarity, or music makers who need the bang for their buck. I
Mhm.
talk to all those different subcultures, and try to kind of diagnose what the need is. And from my end, I mean, I was in sales for a while as well. I always kind of approached it genuinely. I wasn't going
Mhm.
to try to sell somebody they didn't need, or
Mhm.
something that they, because then that's another customer support ticket that I would have had to answer as a customer support person, saying, hey, why isn't this working for the
Yeah.
thing that I sold? So
D-
the best sales is something that doesn't have to, or that sells itself. And
Yeah.
I believe that's just kind of the correct diagnosis from
It's
a
like the
sales.
Tetris aspect, right? You put the right piece in the right spot kind of thing.
Yeah. So happy accident considered, as much as I was in it looking for other people who were listening to the music, they were really just all listening to the gear, and I thought that was a really awesome thing that a bunch of people could get together at a can jam event, listen to the gear with all the music considered. I mean, it wasn't always what they were listening to, but so much of listening to the gear is what you're choosing to listen to. It's is this a big bassy EDM track? Is this a soft classical wispy kind of mix? Like, you got to know a little bit of that context going into evaluating this gear. And
Mhm.
I always ask people, what are you listening to? And I'd start the conversation with the music, because that was the through line. And that's what I was really happy to see,
Mhm.
is that there was a through line with music with all of it.
I
And kind
mean,
of moving into now,
I mean,
here we are.
that's yeah. I mean, I'm here for it, man. Because like that's at the end of the day, no matter how much of a gear head you are about audio stuff, at the end of the day, the actual root of why everyone's in this and doing this is
Yeah.
music. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like that's. I mean, I would hope that
Right.
you're
Right.
not just buying some really fancy headphones to hang on your wall to be like, yeah, like.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, dude, that's dope. I do like that. I like that. Like, it's kind of an interesting thing how that kind of also feeds into your approach to music itself. I'm sure that helped even with working with other artists and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of another thing I want to touch on that, but I wanted to touch on something real quick.
Yeah.
Before then, you mentioned so you've been playing since you were 7, and guitar specifically, but you went to college for music. Like that's your like degree. What was your like your main focus? Like was it I remember I think you said jazz guitar or jazz or
Yeah.
what's
The full title is jazz slash commercial guitar performance with a dual emphasis. So the second degree in music business. So guitar performance specifically
Mhm.
in my angle, I had practiced a lot of jazz. I realized going from my high school self, who had a band of my buddies, and we loved to play tunes at the local bars, but in North Illinois suburbs,
which is
that
dope.
wasn't much.
It's
Yeah,
still
right.
cool. It's so cool as a young kid to
It's
be able to
so
play it.
cool. It's so cool. And I mean, in the north suburbs, there weren't a ton of venues, so we had to kind of scrap and find these coffee shops with big kind of corners or a nice outdoor rotunda in the summer. Hey, can we just set out the tip jar and have our friends come? We'll bring you business,
Yeah,
just
just let's
sauce us
play.
this kind of fee. Yeah, let us play. So making our own stages, that kind of innovation really sparked my creativity to come out here. And I didn't have to make my own changes, or excuse me, stages in Denver anymore. There
Mhm.
was a well infrastructure, especially for live music, that I was overwhelmed with opportunity and just needed to get going in all of it. So I was trying to get little bands together and gig with people. But the transition was, I came out here for school. I'm networking with musicians in class and on the
Mhm.
scene, going to other people's gigs, coming and seeing people at my own. And it was just really it planted the seed in my mind that it wasn't like my suburban existence trying to make my own stage and struggle to be the only people who played music in the area. A lot
Mhm.
of people make music, even
Yeah,
just in their bedrooms and everything, and it's all super valid. There's room for everybody in this now saturated industry.
dude, I love
It's
it.
just accommodating that and
Mhm.
accommodating it with proper infrastructure that Denver is has had and is growing in the process. So
God, that's so that God. There's like I have a whole slew of questions, but like I keep leading.
yeah,
There's these leading. You keep it
we're
leads into
touching
other
on
ones. Yeah, yeah. So
I
I'm like
know,
I'm trying to
yeah.
like jump around a little bit, but like that actually
Sorry.
touched on something. No, it's actually really cool. No, that's I love it. It's my job to try and goad the conversation in a
Yeah. Come on,
but
Brennan.
like
Come on, Kimmel.
let's do this. That actually touched on something because you actually one of the questions I had for you it's later on was how you view your how your city Denver
Mhm.
helps mold your approach to music and your sound. But I wanted to touch on something else before that question kind of led into this one. This is actually one of my last questions was that one, but so I'm kind of coming back around.
Let's
But
let's go.
the thing that is interesting to me though is like Seattle has always was the grunge scene, right? Like it was like the known grunge, like it became. How do you view Denver? Is like Denver starting to become its own like
Yeah.
music scene? Like is it becoming that next thing? And then that leads into the other part, which would be the real question I had, not the real, but like the question I wrote down. How your city molds you and your
Totally.
aspects of music. So what do you think?
That's a great question. So, how Denver is or was music scene wise, and how that scene kind of molded me into where I'm at now.
Hmm.
Um, it's a great place to start because when I moved to Denver, it was 2017. It was kind of coming off the phase of freak folk being in the popular light of the Lumineers. They
Hmm.
were a big
Love
local
Lumineers.
Denver band,
Yep.
or Colorado local band. I'm not quite sure where exactly they're from, but lots of room for the kind of folksy area of people to
Hmm.
pop off in this scene. But at the same time, uh, I very much saw a lot more immediate, sizable success to those who were doing more jam band oriented, Fish, Grateful Dead inspired.
Hmm.
Groups, ensembles, performances, and kind of facilitated gig experiences because it's more than just playing gigs sometimes. Like
Hmm.
these folks are going out to mountain towns and throwing these
Like
festivals that
festival.
are like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like that, there's so many people come out to that who aren't just from that mountain town because that
Hmm.
a smaller festival.
Yeah. Yeah.
But seeing that kind of runway matched up with the polar opposite EDM, DJs only, all in the box, maybe some instrumentalists, but more digitized
Hmm.
versus band oriented music. That's another extreme to the scene that it really propelled DJs. I had a lot of DJ friends in college and just who I met around the scene who have just blown up because their music is original, but fitting that familiarity of the niche of electronic dance music and the popular sides of that. So it's really cool to see Denver's duality come from EDM and jam band silos, and
Hmm.
now with a lot of local talent starting to emerge, bringing up some R&B, bringing up some hip hop, bringing. I've seen a lot of amazing Latin performances and performers out here, very original performers out here who have their own shtick between genres, molding things together. And in such a saturated industry nowadays, that's crucial
Yeah.
to say set the genres aside for a sec. This feels right. I learned from this sphere. I learned from that sphere. Personally, I came into college thinking I'd just be a jazz bebopper my whole life, just playing skidoo
Smoking
all day.
cigarettes and having the
Yeah,
fedora and
there was a phase of both of those things. I'm not happy to say that, but cigarettes and fedoras were involved, unfortunately. But short lived, short lived. But
the
um,
zoot suit era of the dawn.
hey, there it might have been corduroy, but yeah,
I'm here for
perfume
it.
corduroy. But maybe that's Denver. Maybe that's just my Denver vibe. No,
I
but
love it.
in how that kind of scene impacted me, coming in and having a lot of friends in the DJ and jam band worlds, but also in these beautifully richly diverse like whether it's cultural or just sonic influence on
Hmm.
different people from different backgrounds, different places, different states, because that kind of mid to late 2010s felt like it was starting to peak in terms of Denver's boom of
Hmm.
influx of people. I think it leveled out closer to the pandemic when everything
Yeah.
got confusing. But a lot of people came into Denver at that time, and I among them. So it was really cool to meet some like-minded natives as well as non-natives who transplanted over here and had different musical influences. And then having my own from Chicago, I had that jazz background. I had that. Hip hop soul influence that could be coexist with the jazz in kind of a new
Hmm.
light. I mean, I'm talking about Chance the Rapper's old band, The Social Experiment, or
Hmm.
even before that, preceding them was Kids These Days. It was the Man Wolves. They were a
Hmm.
big 12 piece. I'm talking singer, rapper, three to
Dude,
four
that's
piece horn
super
section,
dope.
three to four
Like
piece rhythm section. That's where I came
like the
from
big
getting
band, like the
with
big
this.
band, but with
Oh
hip
yeah,
hop, like a hip hop
oh yeah,
vocal, but with a big band flair.
yeah.
Like that's super cool. I do like that.
And a smoky voice R&B jazz singer who can kind of traverse and really blend these different genres. And they'd have just Latin sections
Yeah.
halfway through that they're
With the
soloing on.
like
And you're like, okay,
why am I'm gonna butcher the name, like chink, like the it's the chinko, like the what's it
oh
called?
yeah,
Uh, you know, talk about the guitar. That's the Latin guitar playing.
yes, flamenco. Or,
Flamenco. Thank you. Wow,
of course.
words are great with me. I don't know if you know. My brain goes way too fast and it tongue
You're
ties, and
good.
it's like,
You're
yeah.
good.
Um, which I love that because I love the fusion aspect of it, right? And so, like, one of the things I also wanted to touch on, you were mentioning like the way it started with kind of like this folk kind of genre in Denver a little bit, and then I what I'm seeing from watching you, because I'm like that kid looking through the window at you playing your music from afar
Oh,
on
via
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's like this very awkward like, oh, what are you doing? You know, like, but like I'm seeing a lot of hip hop, I'm seeing a lot of that bluesy, jazzy R&B singer. Like you have that one artist you work with a lot, where she's just actually you have a couple that do the that kind of that bluesy
Mhm.
R&B jazzy kind of thing. Um, and then you have a bunch of hip hop guys doing the rap and what have you. And it's very, do you think you see that kind of being the new wave of Denver? Is this kind of fusion, kind of hip hop rap, or hip hop rap, yeah, jazz, blues, fusion kind of thing, like that big band thing with the
I think it
Latin.
exists in many different pockets in different ways. It's
Mm.
really hard to speak for the entirety of the scene and do so accurately. I feel
Oh, fair.
humbled
That's
whenever I try to, because it's difficult to. I mean, everyone's in a valid way doing their own thing, and that's
agreed.
kind of the beauty that I like to traverse out here. Is that walking into room to room, I just try to diagnose what's the goal, what's the vision, like where are the sound influences, but like not needing those reference tracks to be so okay, we're going to A to B make a song between this, because that's just not original.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are really reaching, I try to surround myself for folks who are risking something in their
Mm.
music, who are truly reaching for something original, and that involves some familiarity, catering to what the popular palette is nowadays, but it also involves distilling what inside of you is new and a little risky and edgy, and like, I don't know what about this weirdness sounds good, but I'm going to chase it. And I see people doing that, and I love it. It
Yeah.
inspires me, and it pushes me to go for that further, and
Yeah.
find new boundaries in my own creations. But to be more collaborative at times than I am kind of a singular creative, uh, I find it really helpful to see those folks. You were talking about
Kind of like expanding.
exactly, and it's symbiotic. It goes both ways. Like, I try to push artists in a way that gets them to reach and risk more, because at times folks are trying to stay in a box they might know is safe creatively, but
Hmm.
I don't feel there's a lot of progress within that. There certainly can be, but I just see my style of creation and the style of creations I want to be involved with being ones that are on that edgy end of newness, whatever that means, and whatever that is momentarily validated as. To get back to your original question, it's hard to say there's a set scene for a certain genre out here, because I think it just shows that different genres coming to the forefront, different vocalists bringing these different genres to the forefront, whether they're promoting series of shows or performing at their own, musically or business, and like the infrastructure is showing a lot of maturity
Hmm.
through, like, seeing these different genres, seeing these different people from these different sides of different scenes pop out here. That's all you can ask for, is seeing that variety and seeing there to be enough support for that variety, both in the musicians, the artists, the managers involved, the promoters, the marketing agents, and you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the merch booth shouldn't look the same in all concerts you go to in a place. The venues shouldn't look near the same. They shouldn't have the same types of shows.
Hmm.
Uh, but then, you don't want the same venue doing every kind of show, because that's the town it is. This town has a live scene, if anything, and
Hmm.
it's growing the limbs around that to support it, or it has grown limbs around it to support it. And now we're seeing just the maturity of that. We're seeing new artists come up with newer and newer sounds, and kind of settling with the influx of people in that late 2010s, early 2020s. I
Hmm.
think we're seeing a lot of that musical influence come because people are writing songs in their bedrooms to YouTube beats, and they take that to studios or to folks like me to make those realities, make them original realities, or just to see what kind of risks can be involved taking that creative route forward with them. Or they're lifelong musicians who play gigs,
Hmm.
hand over fist, and are always booked and always scheduling,
Just
and like that variety is all you need. Yeah.
yeah, I really dig that a lot, actually. And that, something you mentioned, you said you like, you one of the things you really enjoy doing is coming in and like seeing how people are like kind of flowing and moving through, and how you can actually start to be like a catalyst to help keep pushing that. Um, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm putting words, but like being the catalyst to keep that flow going, right? Or keep that
100%.
kind of pushing those limits, or pushing the edge of what creativity they want to do. It reminded me of another quote as well, and it's from Bruce Lee, and it's "Be like water," and that's one
Yeah.
of my favorite quotes of all time. And it's like, if
Totally.
you can be fluid and you can be like, okay, let's How do we move around this? Let's flow over it. Let's figure out
Right.
how to, make this work. And that's what you, when you were talking about that, that reminded me of that, which is pretty cool. Being able to flow with somebody and like being able to be like water
Yeah.
and move and just create. So that's really cool.
No,
Um,
that's helpful. I'm glad you used the word catalyst and that kind of water flexibility. That feels appropriate. I'm glad you're getting that impression.
it's cool, man. Like, and one of the other things that you do, besides just playing for yourself, like playing guitar and that kind of stuff, is you actually kind of hinted at a little bit. There's, you also do production. Like, you actually have
Mhm.
people come and you record and you actually add music to it. You're actually doing not just
Yeah.
playing. You're not just being the artist. You're actually also doing the production side of it. And what's that like? Like, and I remember we talked at the beginning, like having the Dawn hat, and then you have your
Yeah.
Brandon hat, and then so is that like that also that duality to
Mhm.
some level? Is that an added layer of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent question. The duality sprouted from me taking on production and more of a voice in like a holistic sense in the song than just the guitar parts. I was in a lot of rooms in college recording with producers who had excellent ideas. When I just lay down a guitar part, they'd have that inspiration. I'd always go for that look. They'd turn around and go, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, do that," and that would be my validation for the day that I played something interesting, whether it was the first thing I played, which always feels great, but also sometimes they'd push me and sometimes it'd have to be the 90th 91st 9,000th thing I've played that day or session. And I love that diversity of experience, but it came from me being like, okay, I can't just be a guitarist forever and pay the bills or eat
Hmm.
or be
The
comfortable in my
starving
occupation.
artists.
Yeah, whether it's from a financial standpoint or if it's just simply I realized there were a lot of ideas I was having in the rooms with the producers, a lot I was learning with the producers that I could take into my own. And a lot of my friends at the time, I was in a hip hop group in college with a rapper where I was kind of deconstructing his digitally recorded songs and trying to arrange them in a band format, typical
Ooh,
kind
that
of
sounds dope.
keys, guitar, drums, bass, singer vibe, vocalist, rapper.
Hmm.
Um, and that kind of got me to think if I can reverse engineer a session, I can certainly try to engineer it the ground up way, right? So
Yeah.
I tried to mess around from just recording my guitar in Logic, which I had been doing for a while, just adding the drums and bass in and trying to sample more and learning Logic as its own instrument as it
Hmm.
felt to me. And I still treat it as an instrument. I know a lot of friends who are very methodical, they went to school for recording
Hmm.
arts or just learned via being a student of the studio, so to
Hmm.
speak. And I try to be a student of those students, if not find studios I can be a student of in the first place
Yeah.
and learn from that experience because it's truly a trade. Like
Hmm.
audio production is a trade. It's mentor and a apprentice type vibe,
Hmm.
and you need to kind of know where you sit with that sometimes. And I very much feel like a student of that game, and it's
That's
been
cool.
humbling and inspiring to learn over the years from friends doing a lot of hip hop stuff, like a lot of work on like SoundCloud flips, or doing studio mixing, mastering, production style gigs, and that diversity had propelled me to think if producers can so easily network with singers and provide that finishing step of you have an idea, I can bring it to fruition. That's just
Hmm.
something I felt would take me to the next level in my creativity. And I never wanted to touch production. I never wanted to touch the DAW. I never wanted to
And
mix or know what
here
EQ
you
is.
are.
But now, yeah, yeah. Now I'm like, oh, it all is starting
It,
to, if
it
not making
it all
sense. Yeah.
flows together. It's all a part of the same. You can use food to reference, like it's all in the same pie or same.
Yeah.
It's all ingredients to make the final product, right? Which is really cool.
Exactly.
That's dope. Yeah, I agree. I think that's you touched on these something that I was thinking about. I was like, God, there's not many of these, but like, where are the actual bands with like a hip hop singer? You know what I mean? Like, there's just not. Like, they're all digital. Like, how
They're
cool
out
would
there.
be? I mean, they're out there, but like, they're not
Yeah.
like they're not in the forefront, which I think is wild. Like, that should be in the forefront in my mind's eye, right? Like, to me, that would be.
Yeah.
I'd be like, dude, I want to see that. Like, I want to see some people just
Yeah.
jamming out and a dude just going ham. Like, that would be the coolest. I don't know. Like, that to me is like when I watch
Totally.
some of your live shows that you do, you post
Mhm.
every once in a while. With that one, there's a couple of ladies, but there's one lady in particular, and a couple of the guys too, where you're out there and you're just jamming along, and they're singing, and it's just, dude, that is cool. Like that's like yeah, I don't know, that is
Totally.
something I would wanna go watch, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Sorry.
that's a big niche that I've found. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a big part of the Don Brandon trade off. My guitar turning into guitar and production, and making that one seamless package, the offering of the Don, so to speak. And
Ah.
yeah, right, choir music included. But I
Show on stream. There we go, we're back.
sick.
Okay.
No worries.
We'll just do a quick cut, and we'll get
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to
right. As I was saying, no, I'm glad you brought up the duo things that you see me posting online.
Mhm,
That was my biggest thing when I started posting as Don.musics. Found where all social medias are found, TikTok
mhm.
and Instagram these days, you know.
The the catalyst.
Right, right. The catalyst. That should have been my username.
There
Dang.
you go. There, hey, you got time. The dawn,
Yeah,
the catalyst, create. There you go.
exactly. Yeah. Hey, yeah, CC. Um, But I mean, big shout out to some formative vocalists who I've been able to practice with for the 2+ years at this point. Shout out to Home, Amber, amazing R&B vocalist. Bennett Lewis, Bennett. We've done a lot of duo shows together, as well as some work with a recent rap vocalist I put out a single with Nick called Moment. Kyron Rashad, we just dropped that on the 25th here, so very new
Mhm,
single. Got an EP coming for that. All of these artists had trusted me with their artistic visions to take kind of my sauce and put it on their sandwich. But I always kind of use that analogy. Everyone's out here writing to YouTube beats or having inspirations to songs,
mhm,
but then they realize I want to make this something original. So they bring
mhm,
it to me and then they talk about, hey, I have this lyrical idea and this beat. Can we strip the beat or use parts of it and kind of
mhm,
reharmonize and interpolate and really make our own production over that same lyrical idea? And
mhm,
that's where I found my niche. Is like I said, I started translating digital productions of vocalists into band arrangements, and now I'm taking YouTube beats and a demo idea for a vocal and turning it into its own original production. And that's
Super
just
cool.
been my most favorite thing to do aside from performing in like duo settings. So Far Sounds has been an amazing organization that books me and my friends who sing and rap and do vocals, who are kind enough to call and book me because I try to be a full service offering
Mhm,
between having the song and the creative energy in the studio and being able to bring it live. And a lot of
mhm.
times I'm meeting people live for the first time, and then they want to come into the studio after they figure out I'm a producer. So that Brandon Don producer guitarist trade off, that it all
There's a
coexists.
flow.
Yes, it's like water,
It's like water.
yeah,
Be like water, my friend.
essentially, yeah, yeah.
Dude,
So
that's
I'm
sick though. I
really
love it.
blessed to have those opportunities and to work with those named vocalists and plenty more who I can't name at the moment, but
Hey,
everybody else who's
everyone's
told me, you know,
appreciated.
exactly, exactly. Everyone considered, everyone's appreciated. Those are just a few humble examples. Um, but yeah, that's where I really found my niche, is being a live guitarist and kind of a studio guitarist turned producer who can do both and can
Mhm,
meet you in either setting and provide both depending on getting in where I fit in, being flexible and considering what would be the best area for me to contribute and the scope of that, because I
mhm.
can't do everything. I don't want to do everything. I want to do
No
what I
one
know I'm
can,
good
man.
at, which is, the strings and the producing things.
And that's actually so that ties into my next couple of questions. But before I do that, I did want to touch on there was you did a really cool video, and it was the one where you're in the orange room and it's like that
Hmm.
group and it's like a studio, and it's like their version of, I really like what that studio's doing. Like, it's very, they're actually kind of small. I shared it on my Instagram for like in their story, I think. But
Yeah, yeah.
uh
Thank you.
that was really cool. Like, I love that. I love the aesthetic that they're
Hmm.
going with too, but it reminded me of, there's that one group where they have the singers and it's just this same thing, just blank color,
Yeah,
and it has the mic come
colors.
down. Colors,
The
yeah, yeah.
color sessions. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely the inspiration. Friendly Collective, very close
Friendly
friends,
Collective,
amazing
thank you.
people over there. It's such a great growing business,
Hmm.
supporting part of that Denver infrastructure I mentioned, having an entity, a studio, a come together, a joining place of creatives in the area to also kind of propel those original ideas and give that individual attention that you don't
Hmm.
always get in big or small scenes. So this being a beautiful intermittent point of that. Friendly Collective's really doing a cool niche thing, servicing that niche, and doing kind of a colors adjacent video series. It's really cool to see and be a part of it. I was the first and I think at the moment the only instrumentalist who's played there so far. I mean, hopefully
They
there's
need to
plenty
do
more to
more.
come.
But
They do. There's tons of shredders out here who
you know what you
I
need
could
to
recommend.
do? You need to get with those guys. You need to, and so this you don't have to do it. I'm being over the top right now, but like
You
it
tell
would
them
be
what they need from me. Yeah,
Friendly
this would be great.
Collective.
Yeah.
You need to get this guy, and you need to get the I think it's Holmes.
Homes. Yeah.
Get her, and you need to have like a cool actual like band session of playing like that. That
Totally.
would be
The sit down
sit
expanded.
down expanded. Yeah, perfect.
The ensemble six sit down, whatever. Yeah,
The
that's a
sit
great
down
idea.
expanded. I love it.
We'll send it to him. I'll send it to him. We've already tweeted at him here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're coming in hot.
Right.
But
Right.
like so sorry, the sidebar there.
Sure.
I wanted to touch on something because you're working with a lot of artists, and artists,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you know this, can be artisty and very opinionated
Creative.
and
Agreed.
creative,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
creative, and very opinionated. Um,
Certainly.
and not that's not a bad thing. It's just part of being who they being a creative is like you have a vision and you want to stick to your vision, right? Like that's a
Totally.
so I'm joking when I be like being all woo, but like it's a real thing and it's not a negative thing. Like I don't want that to be taken as a negative. It's but it can be complicated. It can create
Certainly.
certain conflicts in and of itself by the nature of having very opinionated, very creative, flowing people. And so,
Right.
might ask of you, and if I'm not, once again, I'm not shining a negative light on this. I want it to be a
Of
positive light,
course.
like a positive spin. Is like, how do you keep your voice when working with other artists? What is the give and take? Maintaining that positive relationship while also maintaining that creative catalyst flowing water state
Yeah.
with an artist and continue, you know what I mean? Like how does that work like for you, like because you're doing this on multiple stages and multiple levels, right?
Yeah.
With not only the live shows, the production, but also like you are a part of, like you could even say you're part of like all these different bands at the same time, right? So
Yeah.
like
Totally. Yeah.
on multiple tiers of that band, like you're not just one aspect, you're like multiple aspects. And so
Totally. It can get complicated. I agree, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's the valid point. I think to counteract any potential negativity that could be drawn from the discussion, I think it's essential for an artist to be decisive and to
I can
be
agree.
stubbornly decisive
Mhm,
in a way that really streamlines their brand, whether that's sonically or
mhm,
visually. Personally, I'm always focused on the sonics. We can talk about the visuals all day when it comes to promotion and marketing and
mhm,
what the cover's going to look like, what the reels are going to look like. But at the end of the day, or what you're going to wear on stage, even that, like I always bring an extra shirt when I'm performing in case the one I'm wearing isn't really up to par. I
vibing
always
isn't
get a
vibing.
nice. You're right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as much as that's my decision, my decisiveness, the artist might be kind of like, you know, if and maybe I didn't know that walking into the gig, so I always
Mhm.
got some nice black shirt on standby that'll always do the trick.
Classic, yeah,
So
classic
yeah,
look.
yeah,
Can't go
and
wrong.
that's just one of the little things that I do to kind of get in where I fit in, to be flexible, and also to allow the artist to be the truest version of themselves, which is individual and decisive.
Mhm,
Some artists struggle with being decisive when they lack the infrastructure to. I keep using that word. In this case, I mean a team. I
mhm,
mean teammates. I mean people to share some of the decision making load. You know, the
mhm,
president has people that pick out ties for him every day just so he can make clear decisions. That he's got a meal planner and all that. Like, excuse me, the president has a meal planner and all that. But artists, they have to do it all. They didn't know they
mhm.
were signing up to be a videographer, a marketing agent, a manager, a lawyer. Sometimes, I
Yeah, yeah.
mean, but like for me to even take some of that burden off there, to be a producer, a creative in the room who can speak to their intentions and allow them just to wear the vocalist hat, the artist hat, and
Mhm,
not to have to be the producer, the executive decision maker in terms of sonics. Like
mhm,
I can help do a lot of that. And I come from a place of open mindedness. I've always been rather extroverted, rather open, rather let's consider the extremes and whittle in.
Hmm.
What do you call it? Subtractive versus additive. And a
Hmm.
lot of artists tend to be additive. Oh, I like this. Let's add it to this. Let's do this. Let's
Hmm.
do this. And so with I try to whittle my type A nature more analytical, more kind of thought oriented around thought oriented, more analytical and detailed.
You want to
But
distill
then
it down into
yeah,
the
yeah,
finest of products, kind of thing.
and it needs to be aligned with the artist's intention, and the artist will share that intention in many ways, not always verbal,
Hmm.
especially on stage. And I've had the most experience playing live. I talked about 20 years playing guitar, 10 years playing gigs,
Which that's a
and counting.
skill in and of
um,
itself, to be able to flow
yeah,
while live on stage in front of a crowd. Like
yes.
that's a ridiculous skill.
It is. I mean, I'll be bold enough to say it's one I have, and it's one I'm the most comfortable with. I have sit downs with artists before we even touch the keyboard,
Hmm.
touch the phone to record a voice memo, which is how I usually start the songwriting process, and try to get it brick by brick built up with the rapport, starting
Hmm.
with the rapport, starting with the conversation, getting to know them, and getting to know what makes this a thing. Because
Hmm.
I don't want to work if we're just going to say, yeah, I've been thinking about this song, let's make it like this song, let's just make this song. It's like, you got to know the person, you got to, it comes from a relationship for
Hmm.
me. And I always try to take that point to kind of diagnose where the artist is at and diagnose my place in it all, because
Hmm.
far be it for me to assume that they just came to me so I need to start making all these decisions for them. Heck no.
Hmm.
No, we figure it out together, and it's a
Yeah.
conversation, and beyond that they're usually leading the conversation, or I'm giving the opportunity for them to kind of lead it with decisiveness.
Kind
Does
of
that make
in
sense?
goading them in the direction where you like it,
Yeah.
when I use the word goad, I don't know if that's a term that's not really well known, but goad is basically a thing that kind of helps direct, like the
Mhm.
so like a on a road, uh when you see lines on the road, those are goads in the road, because they help you direct you in the
Interesting.
direction that you want to go, kind of thing, or where you know what I mean. So you're kind of, it's kind of like hinting at, like, or like a sheepdog
Yeah.
goads the sheep to where
Yeah.
they need to go, kind of thing. So it's, I mean, I'm being very, like, it's not the exact definition, but you know what I mean. I'm
No,
trying to,
for sure. For sure.
um, but like,
Yeah.
I love that, because then you're also allowing their, like what you talked about a second ago or a little bit ago, was the allowing their creative power to be at the forefront so that they
Yeah.
can kind of push that envelope, push what they want to be doing creatively. I think that's really cool. Um,
Totally.
I think the other aspect I wanted to touch on, because you also seem to be taking a, not necessarily, you're not really taking a back seat. Like, I think some people might confuse that you're taking a back seat to some level, but I don't. When I hear you talk about that, I don't hear that. I hear you're an enabler. Like, you're enabling.
Yeah.
You're trying to enable creativity to get that person or that group to come forward with their creativity and make their own voice heard, right? Um, and so at the same time, I do have a question regarding that. And while doing that, how do you maintain your originality, your
Mhm.
creativity? Like, what are you doing? Because I'm picking up in between the reading between the lines what you're doing for creativity and your, you know what I mean, like, especially in the live show, you're jamming, you're creating your own
Yeah.
creativity that's uh accentuating what their creativity is. Is
Yeah.
that kind of how you're viewing it? Like, sorry,
Totally.
I'm putting words in your mouth, but like, go
No, no,
ahead.
no.
Sorry.
Place away, place away. No, I think I think what you've been saying is super accurate. And I agreed. There could be the tendency to view me as a strictly just a service provider who's
Hmm.
not bringing anything like any sauce, any flavor to the table, rather than just helping complete the sandwich. But rest assured, I am bringing the flavor. I'm
Yeah,
bringing the sauce.
and I see
So,
it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I see
right,
that.
right,
Like, I see
right.
that you're there's this whole thing. There's the dawn in there. Like, it's pretty cool. I watch your videos on Instagram, and
Thank you.
sorry, but you can see it. Like, you could see even, like, sorry, I'm cutting you off real quick. Just
Go for it. Go for it.
um like in some of the videos, like I think it was with the homegirl, got
That's all right. That's all right. Please call her girl as well.
yeah, like, or home lady, but like, oh, you guys are jamming, right? And she'll be singing, and then you're sitting there playing, and you'll look at each other, and you'll see the vibe. Does that
Yeah,
make sense? Like that flow,
totally,
and you'll
totally.
change slightly. You'll see you change like
Yeah,
certain chords, and you'll see, and then you'll see her like inflection change a little bit. You'll see
yeah,
like the way that you guys are moving a little bit different, and there's
totally.
that, right? That's what I'm reading between the lines in, and seeing that your creative, your originality and creativity is
Yeah.
now accentuating and pushing forward that. So sorry, that was what I
Oh,
was trying to get at. Like, and I wanted to get your take on that more. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah. No, 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 no. No apology necessary. I'm glad you used that as an example. I think Home is a great singer to point to when you're looking at my contributions in a duo setting,
Mhm,
and as kind of a microcosm for all my contributions that I take to all the artists that I work with. I've spent the most time working with Home because we knew each other in college and still
mhm,
work to this day. So we've definitely got the deepest rapport. So when we play, it's very seamless for me to show up and kind of have a musical conversation with her on stage and do
like a
so
dance.
confidently. Yes, of course, is exactly, and it's she's a wonderful person to do that with because she's confident and enabled and has known my style of teammate companionship
Mhm,
over the years. So I mean, like my whole goal with artists is to be the most employable, best contribution to a team ever. Like I just want to be the best teammate. That's the award
mhm.
you can give me before my death
Dude, I
is
love that, dude.
that
I'm
he,
a
he was the
big
best
I'm a big
teammate.
enabler as
Yeah,
well. Like, I love pushing
yeah,
people up. I love that too. It's one of
right.
my favorite things.
That's part of why I keep the SEO of the Don pretty low key. It's hard to search for because you'll probably find me on someone else's tracks. That's where I
Mhm,
feel like my best work is done, not only solo within sharing my own voice, but in where you can see my voice blending with another's. And that's what
mhm.
I think the beauty is having something of my own and having the ability to blend it, whether that's making the difficult decisions to move forward with an artist decision that I may not, whether it's an agreement or not.
Mhm.
It's a flexibility of like
It's a
contribution.
relationship. It
Yeah, yeah,
it
it's
it's a you have to kind of find how that relationship works, and
yeah,
but yeah, like
yeah,
each of your contributions and how do they plug in
right.
together to work where it becomes that cohesive
Mhm.
final thing. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, you're good. You're good. A lot of your last few questions have revolved around how do I retain my voice in such collaborative and
Hmm.
flexible environments. I think my voice is flexible. I think my voice is by nature
Hmm.
collaborative. I think it shows best through the work with that one indie pop singer, but then
Hmm.
also through the R&B singer. Whether I just produced or played guitar on that record, it doesn't matter what or how much I'm doing. It matters that I'm doing, and that's what I feel like my contributions come through. My voice comes through my contributions
Hmm.
regardless. If someone's going to call me to do something in a creative industry, they're going to call me because they want my take on how to do that thing creatively. I don't think my voice would be lost if
Hmm.
someone called me to play guitar on a genre that maybe I don't play every day, but I could still regardless play and carry through and service provide for. But then if they say, yeah, go crazy, do your own thing on something, it will be then naturally more of my voice. So it expands and contracts, but is always present. And I don't try to focus on how much of my voice is making its way into a song because I feel like it comes out, it cuts through either way.
Yeah,
And I think minimalism, owning silence, and whether I'm just mixing
I
a
love that.
track or
Owning
playing.
silence is good, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, owning silence. No, you're good. It's being okay with doing more or less. It's not feeling threatened by an artist saying, "I don't want you playing guitar on this, but I'd love your production." Uh, Granted, those usually come hand in hand. They want my guitar and my
And
production
production.
because a lot of my production is very guitar centric. But I've had tracks where I don't play guitar at all because I feel like it outlines the singer and the kind of song's aim better. And I'm always here for the music. I'm here
That's
for the
huge.
songs as much as I'm talking about working with artists. Like I think another veiled thing you might misconstrue from my intentions here is that I'm here in service of the song. Like I'm trying to
Hmm.
listen to what the sounds say they need sound wise. I'm not trying to listen to what the artist is telling me they need sound wise every time because I want to talk to them about what my interaction with that third piece, the
Hmm.
objective piece, the me, you, and the song.
Hmm.
So it's a triangle. The triangle is kind of the strongest shape, right?
Yeah.
Like in general,
Hmm.
structurally. So let's not quote me on that, but I
No,
think
yeah, yeah, totally is.
for
I
the
don't
sake of
know.
this analogy, yeah.
Yes,
So
yes, agreed.
yeah, I feel like artists really appreciate that working with
Hmm.
me, whether it's in the studio or live. I think it happens very seamlessly live because there's not a lot of depth in those conversations all the time unless it's a very methodical, cerebral, story oriented performance. That happens more in the studio when you're talking about the story of the album, the idea of the lyrics, and kind of how you want that to hit someone because you only have a couple seconds when you're
Yeah,
recording something and posting it on Spotify. People will skip that.
yeah.
People, it's streaming economy. It's all
That
minute,
really
so you
attention
just got to make sure it's
attention
distilled.
is tiny.
Yeah,
It's true.
yeah.
You know, it's
But
funny.
live, yeah, it's
Oh, go ahead.
perfect.
Live. Go ahead.
it's a more of a captive audience. Maybe they're just more receptive, especially, and maybe I've been spoiled with so many beautiful so far performances where the companies organized to have engaging, intimate performances, and with the singers I perform in these so fars with, and the singers who call me to perform so fars with them,
Mhm.
they always own silence well, and
That's what I was
there's
saying.
a lot of space for my contributions and the way I contribute them, as well as the singer's voice and the singer's interaction with the crowd, and they're
Mhm,
always
mhm.
ready to receive that. On Spotify, it's a different story. It's the Wild West. It's you catching people for a second or many
Yeah.
minutes, or on a car ride on a playlist, or just on a discovery list. So it is what it is.
You know what? That so I have two things I wanted to touch on, but
Yeah.
real quick on that live versus Spotify thing. Um, I can relate that is kind of came to me just while you're talking about it was I can relate that to playing a record, a vinyl, right?
Yeah.
So people going to a live show, they're dedicating that time. They've already set aside the time to go watch you perform. Like that's so that's a very dedicated purpose. Like they're there purposefully to watch and listen. So you do get
Mhm.
that more engaged, that more like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's not more real because but it's more of that like
Engaged medium of
engaged and it's
music.
but it's like it's
Yeah.
very it's hard to explain this feeling. You can you know this, but like when you're there in a situation like that and you have this very dedicated to either you or to that moment
Yeah.
group of people, there's a magic there. There's like a
Yeah.
it's a and so there's a thing there, whereas versus something like I'm just listening to headphones, I'm just trying to relax and chill, like I can just skip around, like
Yeah.
I'm dedicated to listening to music, but I'm also dedicated to finding a specific random track that
Yeah.
is going to spark my whatever. Whereas if I'm going specifically to go watch you or go watch a show,
Mhm.
I'm more open to what you're playing because I'm dedicating time to listening to that specific thing, kind of like a record, right? You have to put it on
Totally.
and let it play and let it roll. Um,
That's a great
so
point, and I feel like you're totally right in that. And I'm curious, do you feel during every musical performance that you go to that that is a one of a kind experience that you're
oh
only going
yeah,
to see once? You're only going to hear that song played in that way with that order
hundred
of notes or that
percent.
energy from
That
the group. Or
energy,
the,
the
yeah,
random, maybe the people's
it's sync,
mood at that point in time.
right?
That's a very singular, dedicated moment in time and slice of time that you're just
Yes.
never going to be able to recreate. It could be the lighting was slightly different, the
Mhm.
mentality of the group was there. There might, you know, what I mean, all of that. It's all factors into those things, which is really cool.
Right.
That's part of the magic, right? That's part of that, like je ne sais quoi. Um, but I wanted to say it was interesting because I was as the other part I wanted to touch on as you were talking about all that stuff, and I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but you were
Go
talking
for it.
about your originality and what it meant to be original for you was also
Mhm.
being that collaborative, that flowing motion. And that's very full circle to what we talked about in the beginning when I said, "Who are you?" And you said, "Oh, this
Mhm.
is me. This is what I like." And if you go back, if you're watching people watching this, if you go back and you listen to what Don had to say about it,
Yeah.
was he likes to come in and be collaborative and flow through the different things and see where the music takes him and see where it goes. And that kind of was like, oh,
Mhm.
that's your originality. That's your catalyst. That's your way of staying true to yourself. Was that being
Totally.
that space,
I'm
or
glad you
being in that
picked up
space?
on that. Yeah,
It's like a
because
very full
that's
circle.
really very full circle. That's a great moment for listeners, right? Everybody rewind. No, uh,
Watch it again.
right, right. Like and subscribe. No,
Like no,
uh,
well, yes.
right.
Um,
But you picked up on that aspect, which I think is so much of a part of my voice. Is it's jazz. It's my background. It's studying
mhm,
jazz. It's loving the medium. It's a language. It's
mhm,
a lifestyle for some, and I it means a lot to me. And I, having done most of my musical the most intensive parts of my musical journey have been studying jazz and understanding it, and kind of it's been the most rewarding as well.
mhm,
So it's some of the deepest and best aspects of my musical perspective is some of the jazziness of it, and I mean that in a genre sense, and I mean that
mhm.
in like you can hear me play a rock solo, but you might hear the way I'm playing the
Little
notes. It's
nuance.
yeah, it sounds, you can hear the kind of genre crossover, and that's where I believe like genres shouldn't be considered in everything you do. They shouldn't be so exclusive in at least my branding as well as my collaborations. I want that to go everywhere because like so much of jazz is enabling a conversation, it's interaction, and
Mhm,
it's meeting people in the middle. It's contributing but not overdoing and being too singular. And I think there's no other genre like that. I mean, There are, but, like, so much of it ends up being influenced by jazz. It all comes from jazz. Like, I know it's a big J word. Some singers get scared when when I bring it up because they think I'm about to ask them to scat, which, it's not always the case. Sometimes I do. Who knows?
Uh,
Call me and find out, y'all. No, but,
for real.
it feels like jazz is such a real part of my voice and my contributions and my even work style and my
Mhm,
lifestyle in as it pertains to music because I'm trying to have it be a conversation. I'm trying to let it be a give and take, and I'm trying to get whoever I'm working with to see that like that's how I work and that's how I feel the best work is done. So I kind of that's my expectation is that
mhm,
it's a two-way street, that it's a conversation, that it's even if I'm a service provider or a creative voice, creative contributor in the vision of the performance or the recording, both of those things, it's just jazz has such a deep root in my perspective, not just
mhm.
musicianship but perspective as well, that I have to kind of
It's
pay
part of
homage to that.
your life, like,
Yes.
not by life, I mean, like, but, like, it's integral to your
Yeah.
persona, like, it's been a part of your life for so long that
Totally.
it's actually become integral to how you perceive things, kinda
Right.
like a photographer's eye, right? Like there's an artist's eye, like where they'll see something and they view it in that
Right.
there's a skew to it where I'll like I walk around I like my joke of a Leica thing, but like I have my camera down there, but like I
Nice.
walk around and like I'll actively be like, oh that'd be a cool picture, oh that
Right.
make a cool
Right.
photo, or that then it just there's certain things that speak to how you interact with the world that because of
Totally.
these other things that filter down, right?
In a day and age of needing to show proof online, I should probably show how worn my real book is. We got some coffee stains here, multiple
Nice.
generations of coffee stains. I don't know how many pages off the front and back have been torn off, but it plenty, plenty. So this is beaten up. That's a good sign. That's how you know you're with a cat.
Yeah. Yes. With the
Hopefully.
fedora and the cigarettes and the no.
Yeah. Right. Right. That phase aside.
No, I love it, man. And then you talked about a little bit there, and you touched on it, was, how you view music, right? Your songs, like, you trying to find the song. Like your
Mhm.
collaboration with the artist is ultimately paying into or playing into how do you find the song? How are you telling that story of the song? How are you
Yeah.
projecting that? How are you creating that song? And so with that, when it comes to creating music, there's a couple of things here that go into it. I guess I'll start with the easy one, which is, do you enjoy? Are you in the moment creating a song, and are there times where you have a more cohesive looking like outlook, where
Mhm.
you're looking at it as a full album, like you're telling a full album story, or are you more? And obviously, this isn't like very strict, like you can only be one or the other, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
more in the lines of like, or is it every time you're just in that moment making a song? Is it each always just the song, or do you sometimes have that moment of clarity,
Mhm.
or like what I don't know what it would be called, but like where you cohesively see the telling of a longer story through multiple songs? I guess would be that makes sense.
It's definitely both because that's the PR answer. Sorry,
No,
PR.
you're good.
Yes and no. Breaking that down a bit because it truly is both.
Hmm.
It's a lot of what the artist kind of is needing.
Hmm.
Working on this EP with uh, I'll use the case example of working with Kyron Rashad, a good rapper
Hmm.
friend, who we've worked on this EP together. Some of the compositions were his beats, some of them were my beats, and a lot of them were just beats we made together from scratch.
Hmm.
That for me has a big influence on some of the sonic direction. Are they writing over something I've created and we're kind of fitting those visions together in
Hmm.
retrograde? Is it vice versa on their end? Because Kyron also is a very talented producer.
Hmm.
Or is it going to be more of what's the story of this album while we create from
Hmm.
scratch? And that's my favorite. I think
Hmm.
the best work comes out of that from
Nick,
scratchness,
hmm.
and I think that's a great point to bring up because it's not always going to be from that. I think a lot of people are interested in just a sound I achieved in one beat, one moment,
Hmm.
and want to just grab that and do their thing over it, or vice versa. Have me amplify something they're almost done with and say, we just are missing something. We want to bring you in to help show us what that might be.
Be the catalyst that you are, Don, and
Yeah,
make
yeah,
us
there we go. The finisher. Call me the
the
finisher,
finisher.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I think it's important to kind of know where the need is.
Hmm.
Whether it's, are we going from ground up, in that case storyline's crucial, or are we trying to get in where we fit in with these different kind of piecemeal parts of the creative process conjoined, and we need to kind of combine the flavors to match the storyline. But
Hmm.
I always think it's important, whether it's just a single, whether it's just an EP or a performance live, like, what's the story, what are you telling people, what's the
Hmm.
focal point? And that's what I try to bring out of artists, as well as when I'm releasing my own EPs, when I'm performing solo sets. Like, I
Hmm.
think of that myself. Am I going to start with some just slow chill jazz stuff and then amp it up into some more modern stuff? I have a gig that I play at a brewery where there's some older folks kind of drinking in the 4 to 5 p.m. range. But as it gets later, closer to trivia hour, a lot of younger folks come in. So I'm playing jazz and then moving that up in energy into some
Like hip hoppy,
Drake,
R&B,
Slender
Drake. Yeah.
Noise. Yeah, all the whatever I find, just to
the
kind of put
tempo
more
the
into
tempo
the
starts
energy
to
of it.
change and like the
Yeah,
vibe
almost like a
changes and then
DJ. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
like a DJ set, but
You're
like
like
for me just playing guitar,
like a
it's the
wedding
same
singer.
mentality.
No.
Oh gosh. Hey, hey,
Sorry.
it's valid. Music's
Yeah.
music.
No, no, sorry. I don't I'm joking. Don't ever take me as being serious
That
or
was an Adam Sandler
yeah, that was Adam
reference.
Sandler. Yeah. Yeah. But like no, I love that. Like I love that aspect and there's two things I want to touch on regarding what you just said. Um so it seems like you just want to riff together and kind of see what you can pull from that chaos at times, right?
Yes.
And like see how you guys this goes back to that flowing nature, right? And like how do
Yeah.
you then pull that flow into a cohesive track and then eventual song, and then and also down like a longer album, right? Like and how that story
Mhm.
plays out. Have you ever
Right.
thought, and this is the my question regarding that is, have you ever like the thought processes of coming up with, and this is more of like a
Mhm.
what would that be considered, like a the thought experiment, right? Where like
Mhm.
have you ever thought of like I want to make an album with these restrictions, right? So the creativity
Oh,
comes from being restricted. Like I want to make a tell a
yeah.
story and I want 12 songs in this that tells us a beginning and like has a crescendo and then goes into a finale, like almost like a movie where you have this album that's like telling a
Mhm.
full story through song, through tracks, and each
Totally.
track has its own little chapter in a movie kind of thing. I'm using movie
Gotcha.
reference, but like that, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right? Like is that something like to me that sounds like it'd be so like incredibly hard but so fulfilling to try and pull off
Oh,
in
yeah.
my head. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
like I
That's a great question, and I think it's really good you pointed out both of the pitfalls of that, which
Mhm,
is, um, does creativity benefit from limitations? And I'd say unanimously yes,
mhm.
but there's obviously extremes to that. To
Yeah.
qualify the statement, you could say, everyone's got their own thresholds, and
Mhm,
every process needs to kind of assess where those extremes are and understand how much is too much limitations. Is
mhm.
4 songs going to cut it, or do we need 8 songs to tell the story?
Ye
Do we need 6 different genres within those 8 songs, or do we need just one or two?
yeah.
And influence wise, again, we try to think genreless when creating, because that's the
And
best way to be original. But you still have to take that into account. Is this too varied? Is this too diverse and a little off the wall to be capturing the
yeah.
storyline in a way that's palatable,
And how can you create use the chaos, riffing chaos, and
Yes.
pull it
Yeah.
into that and make it into a cohesive
Right.
storyline or like
It's
in
type
oh
B and
wow.
type
Yeah.
A. I try to keep it dual. I try to keep it binary,
Mhm,
so you can try to transcend the two-sided way of thinking. So
mhm.
I try to start with, where's the extremes? What's the worst and best one could do with this? And
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
saying about, like, whether it's amount of songs or approaches, it can get overwhelming quick when you sit down and say, I want to write an album.
Mhm.
Nothing's on the everything's on the
Everything on the
table.
table.
Let's
Let's
just
just
sit down and crap out an album.
yeah.
Like, it might end up being a crap,
Yeah. It
like,
might actually be verbal
yeah,
diarrhea. We don't know.
vomit,
Yeah.
true vomit.
Yeah. Just
So yeah,
bleh.
a little bit of limitations is
It can
so
be
needed
good.
to
Yeah.
start. And
Yeah.
you want to kind of probably scale up. It's like a filter on a search engine.
Mhm.
Yeah, That's
Yeah.
maybe
There
that's
you
the
go. You're
analogy,
filtering it.
because
Yeah,
you can
you're
search for anything on Google, but to
uh
get the right answer you're searching for, you
you
got
need
to,
to
fill out your filters,
yeah.
or
Or like a
type in a
chat
little more.
GPT kind of thing where
Yes.
you have to actually
Yeah.
you have to goad it to
Oh,
get to the
right.
right.
Go to
Sorry,
right.
it's one of my dad's favorite
Word of
words,
the
and he
day,
used it all
guys.
the
Word of
time.
the
Yeah,
day.
word of the day, goad. Um,
Right.
but
The
like
goat.
the
Tyler,
goat,
the goat.
the goat,
Yeah.
goat. Yeah, goat, goat. But like, but no, that's so true. Like, there's some levels, like, and that's every artistic, creative endeavor, right? To some level, has that where you're trying to pull chaos into a storyline or pull
Yeah.
like, and not that it's chaos when you're, but like, you know what I mean, like you're
The
creating
creative chaos. Yeah.
creative chaos where it's like you're trying to pull from that and create
Mhm.
a cohesive thing out of it, which is really cool. And like I said, sometimes you let too much chaos in and then you're just, you know,
Yeah. And it can
playing a
be
flute
perfect
on
to
the
the
side of the
point.
street. I don't know, like
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe metaphorically.
yeah, yeah,
Or
like, you know what I
really
mean, like,
literally.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
who knows? But, like, it gets a little too much, maybe,
Right.
but, like, at the same time, like, but it's finding that balance, right? And that's where
Uh-huh.
sometimes you need somebody, like, actually, like yourself, where you're helping be that catalyst, but at the same time helping, like, shape and form and
Yeah.
flow and, like, helping guide. See, I didn't say goad. Guide.
Synonyms. Yep. Over here again.
um, through that process, which is really cool. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing. And then it takes,
Thanks. Yeah.
um, I think it takes a very unique person to be able to set aside ego to as well, right? Because ego is a big part of being a creative.
Yeah.
Like, and that goes
Uh-huh.
back to what we were talking about before of being like, how do you find your own originality, your own voice, and but it's also
Mhm.
important. It's important to have ego because some of the most I don't want to say egotistical. Like, those are two different things. Egotistical is a
Yeah.
negative. Ego, I think, can be
Yeah.
construed as negative, but I don't think so in certain aspects. I think ego is just your self worth, like your ego of that's what I'm referencing it as,
More
right? So
esteem,
more
reference.
steam,
And
yeah,
I think you're talking about ego in regards to like an identity
yeah,
defining decisiveness. I mean,
yeah,
I always say taste defines identity, so have one,
yeah,
have a
exactly.
taste.
Yes, that
Talk
you need
talk
the
crap on
ego.
the music you don't like and love the music you do like. Just have a reason why. Have
Yeah,
Be assertive, don't be
be,
aggressive, don't be passive, be decisive, don't be
yeah.
closed-minded or overly open-minded. And I think that's where everyone needs to fall, is in a happy medium, and that's not a switch, it's a fader, it's
It's
a
fader, yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah,
So,
there's nuance.
yeah.
There's parts where
Yeah.
you can give, and there's parts where you can take, and there's parts where
Right.
you're kind of like it's important, and that kind of goes into like
Yeah.
that's actually one of my questions was the ego of self balanced against the ego of others, right? Like, that's one of my
Yes.
questions, and
Sure.
so it's like which we've already touched throughout this whole process, which like I think that is a very real thing. Like, and I don't mean ego in a negative way. Once again, like I'm trying
Totally.
to make it like
Of course.
it's the ego of self. Everyone has ego. We all do. Like, there's no way,
Uh-huh.
shape, or form to get away from that. We all have it. Just like biases and opinions, preferences, that kind of thing. It's everybody has
Totally.
these things, and yes, sometimes they can be negative, but there's also a lot of positive in those things where
Right.
they help shape and form what you're trying to create, what you're trying to
Yeah.
present, what you're trying to do. Like you could say like, oh, I like chocolate ice cream, so and that forms, or like, I guess that's a bad example. You would be a better example of you grew up with jazz, or you have a lot of jazz influence and bias, which helps form your ego and your outlook on creativity. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that makes sense. Like, that's what I mean by ego. So that's part of your ego,
Totally.
your id, your. I'm using some really weird terms here, but like,
No, no, no. It's working though. It works. It's like that primal identity defining self
yeah,
aspect. And I'm not hearing it ego as in like egotistically inclined in the way that like a singular mind
yeah,
may think. I'm hearing what you mean more from like a creative identity defining perspective. And
yeah.
I think I've struggled with that, man. It's good that you touch on that, because for years I didn't really know what my voice sounded like. I didn't
Hmm.
know what I could say I do all of it. I thrived on the versatility marketing until I realized that was painting me into a corner of no business and no interest, because I wasn't allowing there to be something of a lane,
Uh-huh.
that you need to create your own lane for you to break out of it too. And that's kind of important. What I mean with it,
Creating
like
your ego, creating that
creative
id, that
chaos
creative,
is,
like,
it'll
yeah.
thrive and it'll keep you a little diluted in a
Hmm.
branding sense. You won't work if you say you can do it all. Like, for the people whose Instagram bios all say 6 different occupations in the creative realm, that can be misleading at
Yeah.
times, because then it's like, what do you do? And for me to just
What are you
say, oh, I
actually good
do
at?
just this, then that
Uh-huh.
can be singular. So
Mhm.
it's important for people to kind of market their stuff as an individual, but also find that creative way to verbally address how
Mhm.
your niche
Which
is
is tough.
considered.
That's like one of the
It's so hard.
hardest things to
I
do.
struggle with it. I
I know
struggle with it.
I'm old and I
Yeah.
struggle with it every day.
Right. And it takes a confident soul. It takes an
Mhm.
internal security to
Mhm.
really know kind of where your contributions are and how you feel confident in your offerings, whether that's sonically or verbally, vocally, and
Supportive or
just
whatever,
music
yeah.
business wise. Yeah. So it took me a lot of exercising in these collaborative moments. My own voice and eventually coming to releasing music on my own was a big catalyst in my own life of creating that confidence and finding it, or I guess finding a area for me to fake it, and then before it's made within myself. I don't like the fake it before you make it thing. It's really just try and fail enough times to know how not
Ju
to fail again. And
it
I guess internally I was failing myself in that assurance of oh, this is my sound, this is what I feel like I am. But nowadays it's a lot easier to point to, oh, I play this lick a lot, so this is kind of naturally part of my thing. I
Mhm.
can do this style of things, but maybe not that style as well. But I'm always down to try. So it's a difference between being open minded and knowing what you're good at and knowing what
Yeah.
you're offering. So I think I've sectioned that off better now, and it's. But I had struggled, so
So
that's a good question.
here's the thing though, man. Like I wanted to talk. You said you failed, and I don't think you failed. I think that I'd never think like I try to talk. Right, I have a daughter, like so I'm always trying to tell her too, right? Like there's certain things you do fail at, right? But everything that you
Yeah,
do when you're failing at something is you're learning. Like that's how you should
learning.
look
Yeah,
at it. You're learning how to be better the next time. It's
yeah.
the more important factor is not the failing factor or not that you
It's
didn't
fearless
complete it.
growth.
It's the getting back up and trying it again and
Yeah,
trying for a different outlook because you learned from that the time you
yeah.
didn't do it the way you thought it would be. And I think that's key. And I think that's where that you were talking about how you had all these moments of time where you failed or you had these whatever, but look where you're at
Yeah,
now. Like it took all those moments to get you to this point, and you have a
I
lot
won't
more
change it.
moments that will come and go that you're gonna be that
Yeah,
will
yeah.
come down the
To me,
road
like
from that.
that's important too, and I'm glad you're teaching your kid this. Shout out Rye, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
She's a little
and
monster.
right, yeah. I think failures are as much as everyone can talk ad nauseum about growth and the hustle mindsets and whatnot. I think it comes from a place of radical vulnerability to
Mhm.
work. And that's a term that I've had some kind of homies plant in my head. I can't take credit for that. I'm not even trying. But somebody's kind of hit me with that. Oh, it's just being radically vulnerable and
Yeah.
having that fearlessness to be open and to just let
It,
it all out.
to just
And that's, yeah. And it's the fearlessness to just start and try. Like I come from a family of researchers who don't always want to make a move
yeah.
until it's planned.
Dude, the hardest step is always the first one.
Yes, yes. And all the steps are easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
So it's,
just snowball
yeah.
effect, right?
100%. It's building your own momentum
Mhm.
and taking accountability for that momentum, whether it bowls over the town or brushes perfectly right through it. Like it's a
I
bad
love it. I
analogy,
love it.
maybe a good analogy. I
That's a good
don't
one.
know.
Yeah, a good one.
We'll let
I
the
like it.
listeners decide. Comment below. Okay.
Comment below.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I doing
Engage.
this YouTube thing right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do it right, so I don't know. So I just like talking to people. Yeah, that's my favorite part about this. But like, actually, I
It's
wanted to.
awesome.
I like this. There's another question I had here, and it kind of feeds into what we were talking about the ego and what we just talked about the failing and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff and all the and kind of finding that momentum, right? And
Yeah.
it you might not think it by the question, but it's let your intuition guide you to the final form question mark, right?
Yeah.
So it's all of those things led to you having intuition, having a preference, having bias, having intuition and opinion to
Yeah.
then as you're hearing things, those things feed into I'm hearing this. Oh, you know what? I like you might even realize it, but because you had that experience failing over here or you did this riff over here,
Yeah.
now that's feeding into how you're approaching this other thing. And as it's coming at you, you
100%.
can be like, oh, and then you can riff in to this other part, and that's how you can start to like feed into yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like your which I think is the id of yourself, right? So that's it is help performing that aspect to get to that final form of the song of the collaboration with
Uh-huh.
the artist, and it's from both sides, right? From the art
Yeah.
because you're both artists, like but you know what I'm saying, like or
Totally. Yeah. It's a gut reaction. I mean, if I wasn't as artistic, I'd probably be more of like an engineer mind, a type
Hmm.
A mind who can hear something like very
Yeah.
qualitatively and quantitatively
Yeah.
versus just being so open that I'm like, it needs to feel right for me.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm on the same page with artists with that. And I think that's what allows me to be a valuable translator, experience to experience, is that I
Does
can
it
go
speak
based
to
off
me
of,
kind of thing?
yeah, right. Does this feel right, or
Hmm.
does it, what's needed? What's the brass tacks of this? What's the kind of the
Great
on
band
paper
also.
here? But right, the brass tracks. Um, right. Uh, Shout out jazz,
Jazz, hip
new,
hop,
yeah,
whatever,
some
collab,
jazz
fusion.
fusion folks, yeah. But no, I think that's a really good thing to have as a creative who's traversing these difficult landscapes of service providing, very binary, very just ask for what's needed and give it, or hey, lend your sauce. What are we missing here? Let's try to find it together. And those are two
Let's find the
different
magic.
ways of embracing the chaos, that creative
Hmm.
chaos you said everything is kind of ended up pulled from.
And how
Like
do you
when
pull
I
from
sit
that
down and
ether and then
yeah, yeah,
push it into a, yeah,
when I
that's
play
dope.
guitar, that's how I gotta think of it. Like I can sit down and play songs I know, or sit down and noodle and try to
Hmm.
stumble into something, and whatever comes out is an obvious combination of the two. I'm not
Hmm.
sitting down playing the newest guitar ever because or the newest sounding guitar playing ever because I can't just sit down and get into that zone immediately and always. I know some people who can, but
Hmm.
a lot of my experience and my voice, my taste is defined or by my identity, or vice versa.
Hmm.
My identity is defined by my taste. Everything I've listened to and learned before this moment filters into these improvisations and what I think is new,
Hmm.
and my assessment of whether it's close or far from that. So I think it's really just perception's reality. What is
Hmm.
it, the Jim Morrison quote, or it's everybody quote?
Yeah, yeah. I can't
Yeah,
even think of it. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't think
it
of it off
is
the top of
though.
my head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Like what you think is just what is, and
You know,
that's what's up.
there is another question that comes from this. I have a couple other ones, but and we're kind of
Yeah.
we're about an hour 20 in right now.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, right. It goes fast. It's like surprising how fast like time
Yeah.
flows when you're having
Yeah.
conversations. Um, but I wanted to say, this one just came to you as you're talking about. We're talking about pulling chaos and getting that the intuition and going like that. But the question is in all of that, right? So you're tweaking, you're tweaking, not like like, but what I mean, you're tweaking the
Yeah.
sound, you're getting the flow right, you're getting it,
Modifying,
you're
sure.
modifying, you're getting there. At what point is it good enough? At what point do you have
It's
that intuition? Is it like something where you just is it intuitionally, or is there a certain point where someone's like constantly, oh, we need to tweak this, we need to flex here, push here? At what point do
right,
you
right.
go, enough's enough? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I
let's,
know that's a great question. That's a boundary. I
because
think
that's
boundaries
hard
are
with
super
creatives.
important. It is,
Because
and you need to
it's
kind
never
of.
perfect, and everything has to be perfect to
Mhm.
certain, so, but nothing is ever perfect, and you need to
It
find
needs
that.
to be an I mean, the quote from, I think it's like Rick Rubin or somebody,
Mhm.
is that
Oh
like you're
yeah,
never
yeah,
done working, you just kind of stop, you get to a
yeah,
stopping point,
and
or you
then
kind of force that stopping point. I believe it is rather forced. I think we do have to, when we're so invested in these sound babies we're
at a certain
making
point you
and
have to
putting
just be like,
together. Yeah, yeah. Just say the thing's ready. Trust
yeah,
the kid to be its own thing,
yeah,
because like you can't just wrap it in bubble wrap and send it out into the
yeah.
world.
I'm a
You can't just
peacock, ma. You gotta
control
let
it.
me fly.
Yeah, you gotta let it fly, even if it can't,
Yeah.
but you don't know that till you
Until you
kind of
push it out the nest, or like like you
off the
gotta.
building, yeah,
Yep.
whatever. That's right, right.
Sorry. No.
Let's be honest. You have kids, I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Hey,
yeah,
they're amazing and frustrating and amazing and frustrating all
yeah.
at the same time.
So I got the sound babies, and
Yeah,
I'm fine pushing those out of the nest physically,
yeah,
because they do need to fly, or
yeah.
dare I say flop. I don't even
Flop
believe
but
in that,
but
because
they need
time exists. The
time.
internet is immortal, and that could get
You've
picked up
created
later.
something that's
Who
forever
knows?
now. Yeah,
Who
especially in our day
knows?
and age. Yeah. Who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah, you could be all of a sudden it becomes the hottest thing ever like 20 years down the road. Like what was the perfect one?
Trends are retro as heck,
Yeah,
for sure.
Up That Hill, that song from the 80s that
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden it blew up.
I'm spacing on who it
Yeah,
is.
Running Up the Hill or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
It's old 80s singer female. Yeah, like that. But like that was a
Right.
perfect example
Her.
of that, right? Where her,
Yeah.
you know exactly what it is.
That singer. Yeah.
But yeah, like that's a perfect example
Who
of that,
knew?
right? Where who knew?
Who
All of
would
a
have
sudden
thought?
it just took them making a show that everyone was
Yeah.
watching, and all of a sudden there's this song that comes on, and everyone's like, that's a dope ass track, and then it blew up again. And this is like 30, 40 years later. Like wild.
Right.
So
100%. And that's why I'd have to agree. It's you got to set the boundary with the artist because
mhm.
for me it's always between I mean I know a lot of producers who kind of do the hey this is a 3 revision top so let's get most of them within the
Just
first. Second one we should be cleaning it up if not have it. Third one we better have it
and
because
then
then there's a different pay conversation after that. I don't really structure my stuff for that quite
mhm.
yet. I think if there was an egregious circumstance I definitely start to that in the
So if
conversation
you're
but
working with Don and he starts putting no.
yeah, yeah, you heard it here first, folks. Yeah, sign my name in blood,
You've
please.
gone sideways and he's putting
Right. Yeah, yeah. So if
sorry,
he
I'm
says
joking.
3
I'm joking.
revisions,
Yeah.
Tyler told you that's a yellow light.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's yeah. There's
Not
a
a good
line in the sand that's been drawn.
no. I try to structure that kind of compensation conversation around the compensation conversation.
Compensation.
That's
That's another question I have
another
down
title.
that's going to be coming. So be ready. I
Okay.
will have a
Don't
conversation. I
worry.
have some questions regarding that. But yeah,
Right. We'll fit it into the 3 hours.
yeah.
But I feel like this it's important to give the artist an idea of where you're at with the song as you're creating it and to also kind of force that positive feedback because you're the only other person who's able to
Hmm.
validate whether these creative decisions are going well or not unless they're showing it to all their friends who will have a singular perspective on what they think of their creations, what they think pop music should sound
Hmm.
like or popular music should be in the
Yeah.
vein of. So it's
Ooh.
important to really distinguish like hey I think we're getting there, we're
Yeah.
getting close, let's just do this little tweak that. And I mean, I'm sending before every session I have with people, unless it's like kind of an open
Uh-huh.
get to know you session. It's pretty methodic. I send a
Yeah.
text with bullet points, if not something more robust with
Hmm.
the itinerary to the session because we're not just showing up to do things. And if we are, that's the goal is to show up to kind of make something happen and go from there. But once you got some creative bun in the oven, so to speak. You've got to do what you can to finish it and cook it and pull it out. So it's
Yeah.
really important to have a timeline set and feel yourself moving across that timeline and close enough, maybe not at the same time all the time, but as close as you can possibly get to where the artist is at with that. And the artist has to be able to own it and post it at the end of
And
the
post
day. They
something.
have to be
Yeah.
the one to put it out. I mean, I've posted quite a few of my collaborations with artists, but a lot
Mm.
of time that's just because they didn't have Spotify's, and I wanted to get the song out,
And get it
and
going.
if not, give them a start in terms of that linked
A
in
little bit of a slight
internet.
push, a little nudge.
Yeah, yeah. If not, at the
The
very least,
water's
saying this is a
fine.
good
You'll
song.
be
Yeah,
okay.
right. Look, it's a link. You can send
Yeah.
it to your friends, even
Yeah.
if it does have my face on it. I just wanted the good song to be
Yeah.
and when I'm working with artists now, it's pretty much unanimously under the context that they're going to put it out, whether however I'm named is to a discussion, but
Mm.
it's got to be good enough for them to own. And
Hmm.
I always try to phrase it this way: like you're always as an artist owning parts of yourself in retrograde because um, people are going to see, and you're naturally going to have a release cycle, a writing to releasing cycle that's behind
Yeah.
your experience. You're going to be on to the next one right when you're promoting that album that you
Yeah.
just put out. Right as people are starting to catch on, ask you about
You're
it, want to
already
see you play
thinking
their
about the
songs at
next
gigs.
thing and the
You're already beyond it. You're
yeah.
probably sick of the songs. You don't even want to play them, but you're like, hey guys, check out these awesome songs that I just put out that I'm so happy and stoked to share with you. But guess what? You might be moved on. Like
Yeah.
you have to exist in both areas, but you
Hmm.
have to be valid as you're bookending a creation
Hmm.
that this is good enough where it is at what it is saying however it is how it is. You have to be confident in it communicating enough of that for you to put out. And I always try to ensure that with the artist. And that's a very individual conversation.
Yeah.
You can talk to as many people as you want, but that's a one-on-one convo when it's how do you feel about putting this out where it's at, you know?
Dude, that's actually apt because I've been you were talking about this and there's like this moment I was like, God, you mentioned them like share it with all your friends, see what they think, and how much can that between the what you just said where it's like you talking to the
Yeah.
artist and like, okay, where are you at with this? How do you feel about it? Versus like that crowdsourcing, right? Like because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're essentially crowdsourcing what people think of it, but I think that's a trap. There's a trap there in
It is.
creativity, right? Like, right? Am I wrong? Like, if you
It
crowdsource
can
too
be.
much, like there can be, it's a good metric, right? But at the same
Yeah.
time, it could also be a forcing, depending on how much you listen to that, right? It could force the path down a different way, right?
Sure.
Am I
Sure.
right? that mean you picking up what I'm putting down?
I'm smelling what you're stepping in, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
You
my
know?
old band director would
Yeah.
say that. He said, "I'm smelling what you're stepping in." I'm like,
What?
yeah, it's funky,
It's
but,
for
I feel like that's I mean, yeah, bass line. Where's your sample pad on the side? We'll get that next podcast.
For real. I need to get some. Actually have a bunch of that stuff too. I should probably set it up.
There you go. It can be a trap, but I think a lot of that shows durability. It's
Mhm,
field testing, it's durability testing.
mhm.
It's if you drop it and everyone's like, "What is this?" You'd
Yeah,
rather
if there's a
probably know that
unanimous, yeah, if there's a
beforehand.
unanimous, like, oh
Yeah.
god, like
So obviously you gotta field
that's
test
when
it.
the chaos went too chaotic.
Yeah, yeah,
The
exactly,
creative
exactly.
juices were too creative
Right.
juicy.
Right. That everyone talks about you got to focus on your tribe first. Like
Mm.
musicians, it's tribe marketing. You got to get your loyal folks loyal and attached to you, and then they will naturally
Mhm.
help market and create those ripples in
See, we've gone full
social
circle.
circles.
We've gone full circle
Yeah.
again. We talked about that. I don't want to have that quick, rapid. I want to have that real
Right.
grassroots, and those people
I'm
want to
along
be
the way.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those people are there for you, and they want to hear
Yeah.
like that. That see, that's key. I think if it's
It is.
this crowdsourced where it's like a bunch of random people, they don't even listen to your type of stuff. How are you going to justify listening to what
Mhm.
their opinion is, right? Like because they
Yeah.
have a different perspective on what could potentially, like, mind you, this is all potential, like,
Sure.
sorry, I went off on a thing, but like that's true though. Like you
No,
need to
that
be able
works.
to know your
It
audience, know
segues.
your community. Like, yeah.
And it segues well into like I have an EP coming out very soon. It's called Ripples.
Mhm.
um and it's kind of some four on the floor house like very DJable
Mhm.
tracks that are kind of like an ambient chill house vibe with like a lot of my guitars stacked, and it's truly just an exercise of me seeing how much I can fill out a track with only my guitar and guitar
Ooh.
layers and guitar production abilities
Like telling a story
and
with layers of that's
yeah,
cool. That's
yeah,
cool.
and allowing it to be. I mean, I my last release was Sleepless FM. It
Mhm.
was a lo-fi project I put out with Arden Records. Shout out to the guys over there. Very awesome, very
I think I used
supportive.
one of your
Really
tracks in one of my
nice.
intros. Yeah.
Color in You was one of the first beats I had made when I started my production journey close to the COVID years, maybe half a decade ago. And I had just come upon that guitar lick. I also played that guitar lick in the aforementioned sit down session, and it made its way onto the Arden released Sleepless FM uh, EP that I just put out, and that in kind of like it was my e- explorations in the lo-fi soundscape
Mhm.
in what I've kind of learned from jazz, from kind of hip hop beat making, and combining those in a way that's not just your typical sleepy lo-fi stuff,
Mhm.
but also, uh, I mean, I did name it Sleepless FM, so it's for those sleepless nights
Lights,
when
yeah.
cerebral moments, the kind of self-soothing out in
Little
nature vibes.
bit floating on the sea of music a little bit kind of
Yes,
action.
100%, 100%. And I very much intend the second album to be a step forward in that same intention, in that
Mm.
self-soothing, self-gratifying, contemplative moment. You could play it as background music to have a bunch of people over. I aimed
Mhm.
for it to be
That's dope.
sonically palatable, but I
Mhm.
also aimed for it to have some nuances in its creative kind of guitar stacking, house, four on the floor,
Easy to
Uzi
listen in the
style.
background, but at the same time you can lean
Yeah,
in and listen and
I
like
totally listened to it, and I
mhm.
had a lot of friends telling me, "You gotta pick one. You can't do that. You
Yeah,
can't
you
just
can both.
make these, uh, kind of like listless, creative, open-ended, explorative tracks." But
That's
to
when
me,
you
they
tell
sounded
them
very actualized. That's when
that,
I
that,
said, "No,
no,
I
that's when you tell them
crowdsourced too
you
much."
shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Right, yeah. That's when my ego
Yeah,
comes into
yeah,
play, y'all. That's when
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, exactly.
that's
Yeah.
when the id comes
The
out,
id and the
yeah,
ego comes in.
right.
Yeah.
Right. No,
No.
no. I'm not that fierce. I'm too Midwestern, guys. I'm too
Yeah.
nice.
Hey.
So, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, so for real, switch accents halfway through. Uh,
And now I'm stuck. No.
all right. Gonna have to listen to my nose the rest of the podcast. Wait for cute. No,
Uh,
but no, I feel like that was a pitfall I had.
mhm.
I crowdsourced feedback and asked all my friends that I could find. I was kind of hitting a wall with these tracks, thinking there's got to be something I'm missing. And the more I listened to it, the more I realized I really like where these are at. I don't feel like I'm
And
missing anything. And the more people came back saying, "Hey, you could try this. Oh, my, maybe try this. Try getting vocals on this. No, don't do vocals. Do this. Have a
yeah.
guitar lead. Mix it differently." I'm like,
It becomes its own
no,
chaos. It becomes its own
yeah,
unique, separate
yeah.
chaos. It's actually
The
a
chaos
negative.
went
It's
up.
a negative chaos. Yeah, and it can start to feed to
Yes,
the
but the negativity of
counter.
the
It's counter creativity. It's
yeah,
counter. Yeah.
it wasn't, I wouldn't say negativity, I'd say just the critique, the overwhelming variety in the
Hmm.
critique told
I
me
don't
that
think it's a
it's where it's
negative. Yeah.
yeah, right, right. Maybe to rebrand, to
It,
rephrase that word,
it's
it
more of
was
like it.
variety, and it was critical. So it
It
was people saying, "Hey,
yes.
try this instead." But that advice was different to everyone I talked to, with a grain of salt of their
Uh-huh.
perspectives considered. So when I went to, I'm going to release the album in May here. So shout out y'all,
May there you
Ripples EP coming out, Don May,
go.
guitar
Let's do it.
stack, uns vibes, right? Shout out made, that crowdsourcing for that EP was difficult for me, but it was so helpful. And I'm glad I
Hmm.
did it, because with everybody saying, oh, try this in different ways, and with the more I was realizing everyone's saying to try all these different things, I'm not liking any of the feedback, but I could go in and try. I was trying to be as open minded as possible, but seeing it instead of in here, but asking people and seeing it out here, I could externally validate
Hmm.
internally. But all that noise was clouding. All the chaos was internal when I was sitting there making the music alone. When I started to ask people what they thought, the chaos left my head and entered theirs,
Hmm.
and was fed back to me in a way that I could palate and make a decision on, which was
Hmm.
really just left swiping
Let
and
be.
saying no to
Yeah.
all these ideas that people had, great ideas that I'm sure I could create a trillion different variety packs of. But like, the reality is,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's capturing what I feel like it captured, and I feel like it does it well, accurately, and effectively. That's all music needs to be, is capturing a moment of your feelings, your vibes, and doing so
You didn't get
in
lost
this
in the
serious
chaos
way.
of
Yeah,
feedback. The
yeah,
chaos of feedback. It's not that it's a bad
yeah.
feedback. It's just the chaos of
No,
feedback. There's too many
right.
options. There's too many variables. There's too many factors,
Overload.
and so it's overload. So
Yeah.
and people get lost in that, which like we were talking about, like when's it good enough? Like that's really cool to hear your perspective of how you
Hmm.
ingested that, had to turn it on its head in your own way, and then
Right.
be like and let it go. Like
A
that's
hundred
cool.
percent.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like okay, I appreciate and I respect everyone's feedback, and I can let's see how this would figure, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like nope, but this is mine, and this is okay, and
Yeah.
this is good
Totally.
feedback, but it's not good feedback for this space for this. Like that, I
Yeah.
think that's cool. Like that's really cool that you actually were also had the um
The
wisdom,
artist experience.
maturity, the artist experience, but also the
Thank
maturity and
you.
wisdom in the way to like take that and go, oh, this is great, but no, I'm gonna put that chaos. I'm gonna swipe
Yeah.
on it, and I'm gonna do. I'm
Swipe
just gonna
left.
push it. Like
That's a
cool.
lot of what I say. I say swipe left a lot, and people are like, "Wow, you really just did it." I've never had a Tinder, man, like straight up. I I'm not even
Yeah.
bragging. I
No, no,
just like,
yeah.
it never was something that felt natural to me. And now that I'm using that analogy,
It's
everyone
just
kind of gets
funny.
the wrong impression. But it's such a perfect way of describing it, because
Yeah.
these days people are just left or
Yeah.
right on
That's right.
anything.
Everything.
The
Yeah.
minute you right swipe something, it becomes a fad.
Yeah.
It's quickly fading from your consciousness. But the reality is, like, everything you ingest, it's your taste, and your
Yeah.
taste defines your identity. So left swipe confidently.
Yeah.
There's a lot to swipe these days, but just
Have the
swipe
ego.
left
Have the
behind.
id,
Yeah,
man.
have the
Own it.
actualization. Think about it. What feels right, for sure.
Yeah.
Intuitive. And
Intuitive.
you brought that
Intuitive.
up too.
Yeah.
The Ripples EP as well, of a lot of my movements in life recently has been informed more by my intuition than anything else. And I just haven't lived life that way.
Hmm.
I create that way a lot, but I haven't had a chance to really activate that in a solo sense. I think this EP is a coming of age in that, kind of decisiveness, and in
Finding
that,
you're
yeah.
finding self to some level.
Right. And as much as like I said, it was a continuation from the Sleepless FM, the kind of like background beats that you could also have as nice introspective solo moments. It really has that value of not just like a variety of situations you could have the music on, but it's also like emblematic of my like internal journey of not only just sound explorations, but just decision making and
Hmm.
like life living. And I mean, that's what music is. That's not
Yeah.
groundbreaking to anyone here. This is bad radio, but
Yeah.
no, it feels more interesting to kind of put the context that while it's stepping forward, it's also me kind of stepping out of my head a bit, and
Hmm.
that it's me stepping out of that, um, oh, I need to make sure all this feedback is considered in this album, even though I said no. I considered all the feedback, and I'm not including it,
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
album. I'm including
But that's good
the
though.
yeah, the demos are basically the tracks. Like
Mhm.
I didn't do a ton to the original demos to get them to the finish line of this EP. So it's going to be really interesting to see the feedback on that. And the worst thing that can happen is nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
And but
that's
that's not reality though, because
yeah,
you're gonna get you have a community, you have people that are gonna listen
yeah,
to it. You have, like it's so it is a thing. Um
exactly, yeah,
and
right.
so and
It'll
that's
make
it's
ripples
important.
regardless.
Yeah, it would make ripples regardless. And then who knows how far and wide those spread and when they come back. That's the other thing you have to remember about ripples, right? They all go
Yeah,
out and they always come back. So
there you
that's
go.
and how
There
they
you go.
how they how they feed back into you is very important. Um
100%.
like I think that's really cool. Yeah. I think that's very it'd be interesting to see how like that. I'm looking forward to listening to them and see how that plays into like the
Totally.
maturing of your artistry and your creativity and that kind of stuff. Like, and I say
Thank you, man. Yeah.
maturing, but like it's not really accurate. It's I mean it is to some level, but it's more of like you're growing as an artist. Like right, like that would be a better
Totally.
way to put it. Like you're growing and filling
Yeah.
into your own way, like
Yeah.
your own path. Like you're forging your path. Like it's weird analogies, but
No,
anyways, you get
that
what I'm
makes
saying.
no,
Like,
it's accurate. It's accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
because I don't think maturing is the accurate way to put it. Because I think
Totally.
but to some level it is. But like I think it's more of like you're forging your path and taking your
Uh-huh.
experiences to forge further and further and to widen that and to fill it out with what you want to be and grow into and that kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, so I've kind of gone through most of my questions
Totally.
for
Yeah, we
you,
can wrap.
but I have just a few more. There's a couple serious ones, and then I want to end it on a kind of less serious but kind of fun one.
Yeah.
I think we discussed a little bit, but so
Right.
but for one of the things that's also interesting, and I think for anyone that's listening or watching that's trying to do this, trying to break out and trying to become an artist, trying to create, trying to like make this a thing, because this is a hard thing. This is you a perfect example of this, of like you struggled with having a full-time job, doing gig work, doing
Yeah.
production stuff, trying to figure out where you fit in the world of being a creative, being an artist, being a production person, and how you move from being that into being a full-time, like normal everyday non creative work job to pay the bills, to do the life,
Totally.
to do the lifing.
Totally. Yeah.
But like
Enabling. Yeah.
yeah, but like so how has that transition been? Like I know it's still relatively fresh for you, but
Quite fresh. Yeah.
like
Yeah. It.
that's a whole thing. That's a whole bag. Like that's and so that's a very tough and crazy question, and it's
Mhm.
not going to be correct for everybody. But I would like to
Yeah.
know your aspect, your take, or your thoughts on that.
Totally. I don't think I'm as far into it as you may be giving me credit. I definitely am still. I left my digital advertising job very recently, within the last month or two, and
It's
it
scary.
was not. It was scary, but honestly, it gave me the same kind of butterflies in my stomach approaching meeting and now exceeding the deadline to leave this job as it gave me the same kind of butterflies as I do like on stage before some of the best gigs I've ever played. And like that's I don't think people really realize how much we're listening to your gut and intuition and kind of having faith that your work will pan out and that it's
Hmm.
not just work that'll oh, I'm not seeing money from it immediately in the way that's immediately sustainable for the lifestyle for the every single bill
Hmm.
possible. Like it does kind of work out, and I don't want it to get twisted. I'm not Benny Blanco out here
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Um, but I definitely am making my way towards a lot more of a sustainable living off of music, and I'm a lot closer than I was when I was at that job. Which
Hmm.
the job, the digital advertising job, gave me a beautiful chance to explore what a work life balance could be. And once I realized the work life and music, whether that was between work or life sections,
Hmm.
that was just starting to get too much, and it allowed my music and my focus on my music to blossom. So the financial stability from that job really enabled a lot of my musical growth. It just
Like
the
stepping
musical growth,
stones.
yeah, it was a stepping stone to my music being where that job once was. So
Hmm.
now I'm kind of structuring it where it was my day job and everything else, and music was one of those big things that was everything else. But so was life. I wasn't getting
Hmm.
enough time for me. I wasn't getting enough time for my beautiful, amazing, supportive girlfriend. And
Shout out, she's an awesome lady.
shout out Annie, awesome lady, you know her. Um, and it 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 came to a point where, I mean, Annie was the one who kind of forced me to think, "Hey, if you just left this
As
job
the lady
now, why don't
behind
we
the dude
just"
always does. No.
right? Hey, she inspired a really good thought to move in this direction and do so fearlessly, and I
Mhm.
think she helped me tap into something I was fighting intuitively for a long time, which was, let's have the day job, let's have the dual existence of a non-creative, then a creative by night, and the 5 to 9. But
Mhm.
5 to 9 p.m. is not that much time, and
No.
that much time is not
And
only
it
music either,
yeah, you
and
have
it's
life
difficult.
that's going
Yeah,
on, food, driving, everything.
yeah,
Like there's
yeah.
you get 45 minutes out of those 4
Right.
hours to do something.
Exactly, exactly. So it just whittled my time down. So I realized I just need to embrace some of the uncertainty. I had read this book, that famous one, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
F.
I'm with you.
And I think it was Mark Manson or something.
Mhm.
As much as that book has had praise and criticism, I took some good things away from it.
Mhm.
And the biggest one was that life is horrible
Mhm.
with certainty, and life is the best when you're uncertain. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to get some of that vibe now that I've kind of left work. I've gotten over the hump of this being a scary transition, or and that it's not an unstable one, and that a lot of my work is paying off now to make this
Oh, this will
movement happen.
pop, but like you won't show it. It's
Do
this
it.
is actually perfect for it. But let me see if I can get the
I see
it.
the pumpkin face. That's about
It's
it.
like a if I lower the brightness, that might help.
There you go.
But like this, like so what you just said, right? Like
Uh,
this spoke to me so much. Oh, this will. It's not gonna. Come on. Anyways, it's like it's a skeleton and he's like all
uh,
shaky. He's running or she's running, and it says the three stages of life, and it's like
yes.
birth, and then it's this the whole rest of it, and then the
Yeah.
whole rest of it's what the f is happening, and he's just running, and then
Yeah.
the last
Right.
part's death. That's what it's
Right.
like. Oh, so
And
it's sorry. That was
that's
my
100%. That's what the book was about. That's what a lot of my life transition right now is about. There's so many parallels within that meme, within the book, within just what I'm experiencing. That's all it is.
yeah.
You're born, you live, you die. And I mean, my parents have been amazing. My family has been so supportive in my musical endeavors over the years. So I had the privilege, I had the deep, honest privilege of being raised in an environment that was supportive of the lifestyle I'm now stepping into. It's just, I think the biggest thing that got me over so much of the insecurity, or the biggest advice I'd have for anyone looking to make a similar movement,
Mhm.
is look at how your work that you've put in prior to deciding to make this movement. Of course, don't do this without having done the proper homework, or
Yeah, yeah. Be
may
responsible
do the
with it. Do
networking,
yeah.
play the gigs, get your stuff field tested, put your music
Yeah.
out first. Don't
Yeah,
just
yeah.
start and think that it's going to pop off unless it does.
This does,
You do
and
it.
that's a
What do
less
I
than
know?
1% chance that's not gonna happen,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah,
like
right. What do I know? Please prove me wrong.
yeah,
I will
100%.
applaud if I'm proven wrong. And I hope I am. But the biggest takeaway for me, and the biggest offering I'd love to give in terms of advice is, um, beyond embracing uncertainty of
Mhm,
this lifestyle, a creative lifestyle without that steady paycheck here and there, is also embracing the fact that like your hard work will pay off, and it'll pay off in like a faith-based, ripple returning like degree.
mhm.
You're gonna see, um, it might not come through the form of money, it might not come through the form of a check every month, but it also
It can
can,
become in
and
the
it will.
form of relationships, it become
Yeah,
not necessarily like
totally.
love or anything like that, but just friendships, like, even look at
Phone
us right
calls
now,
for a
Cliff.
life-changing gig, yeah,
Yeah,
all
like
of that stuff.
yeah,
So it not only having faith that the uncertainty will provide and that the work will pay off, but also that this is
those
individual.
yeah,
Mine might look like algebra, yours might look like long division,
yeah,
but everyone's writing their own equation of their
mm,
life, let alone income structure. So like,
yeah,
far be it from me or anyone else to judge your life equation and your equation that pertains to your income structure and how you make your money and how you
mhm,
live. Like, no one can judge that. No one can try to do that math but you, because you're
yeah,
the only one who wrote the math. You do the math in the way you wrote it, but it takes a minute to learn it, figure it
yeah.
out, write it, ink it, and
Maybe
practice
get
it
the
over.
wrong maybe get it wrong a couple times before you
Yes,
can start to,
100%.
build it
I'm
out.
still getting it wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'm still figuring out how to make my equation ironclad, but
mhm,
the equation is working enough for me to live off of it. So
mhm,
that's what we're talking about. And there might be some part-time jobs on the side. There certainly are for me
mhm,
right now, but a lot of it is still music related, and a
Mhm.
lot of it is still
How does
based
it
off
feed
of my
back into
creative
itself?
contributions. Yeah, yeah. So that's what matters for me, and
Yeah.
that's me what embracing uncertainty and having the work pay off looks like for me. But it is an individual equation, and you just got to write it, and you gotta start practicing it
Mhm.
and sending the
You
numbers through,
gotta
I
let you
guess.
gotta let the ripples go out and come back.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Tie it
and
back into
stream
the
ripples.
ripples.
Stream ripples coming in May. No.
um, but yeah, no, I agree, man. Like that's huge. I think you do need to take and let it feed back into itself, your creativity, that kind of stuff. And it's
Right.
not easy. It's not something that you have to really set the building blocks, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
really, if you did it responsibly, right? Because you could go the whole like, let's hope for the shooting star or lightning to strike,
Yeah.
and but like if you want to do it, in my opinion, the responsible way would, which like what you talked about, is setting those building blocks, setting yourself up for success by slowly figuring out and learning the processes and where you
Yeah.
need to build those relationships and build those things to help you become more successful
Uh-huh.
is important, is key. And knowing where your limits are, like as far as
Exactly.
financially to time,
Yeah.
responsibilities, all that stuff. Like there's all these
Which you
things that are
say no.
individual, and they're saying
Yeah.
no to certain, like, yeah, like you can have,
Important.
so sorry, this is going to be mildly controversial, but there's times where, and not times, but there's a lot of people out there,
Mhm.
and this isn't speaking to you, this is just speaking to like the audience, speaking in
Sure.
general. But there's a lot of people out there that want to take advantage of people, man. Like it's just the way
Oh
it
yeah.
is. It's just, and they might not even realize that that's what they're doing. But they want to sell. They want to see themselves succeed, and they might have the blinders on of their own self, right? Where they don't
Yeah.
realize what they're doing is stepping on others to get where they
Exactly.
think they need to be, and you need to be aware of that as an individual as well when you come across
Yeah.
people like that, where they want to use you as a stepping stone instead of a
Uh-huh.
collaborative thing moving forward. It's, and you need to be able to recognize when that's unhealthy, I guess, right? Or not
Yeah.
necessarily unhealthy, but how to navigate that in a healthy way where you don't close doors. We talked about, let's go full circle again.
Mhm.
We talked about not closing doors. You don't want to close
Yeah.
those doors, but maybe you shut it just slightly. You know what I mean? Like there's some light there, but maybe this isn't the time to open that door. Maybe this is the
Yeah.
time to walk past that door and come back to
Right.
it later. Like so, like that. Those are things that you need to pay attention to. And on a money front, and not, don't take money advice from me. I don't really, I'm not you. I'm not
Sure.
you. But
Sure.
like in the sense of like, um, I struggle with this as a photographer. Like my wife gives me crap all the time. Like I overproduce. Like I'll like
Oh yeah.
I have, like she's like, you should just do 5 pictures, and I'm like, but I took a bunch of dope pictures. Why would I not give these to
Right.
people? Right? Like that's a thing that and so I'm trying to come to terms with that, right, as well.
Commodifying is difficult.
Yeah,
Commodifying creativity is so difficult, and I think
yeah.
that's another thing where I'd point to the same bit of advice: write your own equation. Be
Write your own
okay with it
equation. Yeah.
being your math. Like,
Hmm.
look at everyone else's math and like compare and contrast for sure.
Yeah.
Take notes, learn, grow.
Hmm.
But like, you got to write your own equation, and that's
Yeah.
got to be yours. It will be individual, and you'll only learn it by failing and trying a trillion times.
Hmm.
How that equation comes out, but like it is your math. It is
Yes.
just you.
Just
one
you.
one person, one equation. That's it.
And I think that ties back to the other piece too, is like know your equation, know what's right for you, and feel okay with that, be okay with that, but at the same time try and look at relationships you have, or like with I'm gonna air quote customers or people,
Yeah.
and know when it's appropriate to go, oh, this isn't okay, and be able to let
Totally.
it
Yeah.
go, let you know what I mean, like try to be responsible about how you let that go, but like maybe
Right.
like cut that off, or like there's certain aspects of business, Eric, like where it's not balanced, and you need to
Yeah.
find the
Yeah.
balance of business, relationship, and your worth, like, right, like I've had a bunch of times where like I don't really
Yeah.
need, I don't want to sound like this is going to be the egotistical thing or the ego, right, factor, but like I don't really need the cash, right, like so to
Yeah.
me what people are willing to pay me isn't necessarily about the pay, it's
Totally.
about the respect that you feel that I deserve from you, like that, do you know what I mean? So if you, and that's a hard thing to balance, right, like what's my value
Yeah.
versus, and so like, and so
It's a different
sometimes
equation for
it's a
me.
different
Yeah.
equation, yeah, so like, and everyone has that different equation, so for me, like
Right.
for me, like the pay, it's how much you respect my work, or my what I'm providing to you, right, and so um
So
that's a
would you?
big part, like to me anyways, like so for like if
Mm,
I'm to take a job, or I'm working for somebody and they're constantly undercutting me, but I came in under good faith, but they're constantly undercutting me or taking advantage of me, eventually I'm going to be like, you know what, dude, or whatever business or whatever, like
yeah.
you're just not, this isn't good. This isn't healthy.
Yeah.
This isn't right for me. This isn't right
They
for
don't
you.
value.
They don't value, you're not valuing me in the way that I feel that I'm valued. And so you need to find that balance as an individual as well, right? Where you find that and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you just have to cut it loose. Like, as you
Right.
know, like there's just times where you just have to be like, this is just not, this is unhealthy and I need to move forward and you need to move forward. And
Right.
that's okay. That it's okay to have those moments of
Yeah.
not greatness.
Is it I don't want to try to boil this down if it's not the right time, but am I hearing your pay equals respect plus value, or respect plus output, or what were the other, because respect was definitely a
I think
part of your
respect is a bigger equation for me. Like
gotcha.
respect for
Okay.
me, that's important to me. Like
Within the
I want to,
equation. You got a
in
lot of parentheses
I do.
going on here. Yeah.
I do. Like I'm
Okay.
a complicated individual. But
Gotcha.
like no, but like for me, like I respect. I'm retired, dude. Like I don't. So like I have like I'm saying, and my wife does really well. Like we're not bad off, but at the same time, like uh, I want. So for me, like relationships matter most when it comes down to respecting the
Yeah.
individual and respecting their value. Like right, like I want to be valued. But
Right.
if you're under, and I don't want to use money as a thing, but like if you're undervaluing me, that's a better way to put it. Like let's use, instead of money, let's use value, right? We'll use that
Yeah.
term. If you're undervaluing me, then that's going to start to show, and I'm going to start to have, it's going to start chipping away at how I approach you or how I
Yeah.
approach my what I'm providing
Naturally.
you, right? Like so eventually, if you're constantly being undercut and undervalued, the product you're providing is going to slowly be chipped away and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like for in the
One
sense
more.
of creativity for the production light side of it. If you're constantly getting pinged by some, and I don't think this is, I don't know who you work with. I don't know the artists you work with. I don't know how
Mhm.
those relationships are. I'm just, this is an example. So don't, if anybody's watching that thinks
Yeah.
that I'm
No
like this, no,
friends needed.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like if someone's coming in and is constantly being, hey, make this track for me. Hey, do this jazz thing for me. Hey, do this thing. But they're never giving you credit. They're never giving
Yeah.
you shout outs. They're never paying you. They're never
Very
like,
transactional.
it's
Yeah.
very, but it's one sided. Then that
Sterile.
will slowly make you, one, stop
Right.
working with them, stop making great
Yeah.
music for them. You'll just give them whatever, like, here's a blah, 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 there you go.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you're going to
Yeah.
slowly start to just, and that's,
100%.
and that's unhealthy. Like, and so instead of letting it get to that point where you're just really dislike somebody, because maybe
Mhm.
they just aren't aware that they're being that way. Because maybe like
Totally.
as a fault of my own, like sometimes I'm bad about assuming they know that they're undervaluing me when they might
It's
not be.
communication. Yeah.
Yeah.
And communication gets so important to like
Yeah.
establish that. And I don't even think it's the act of communication. I think it's more boundaries.
Hmm.
Communication is going to be a byproduct of anything you're trying to figure out with anyone
Yeah.
ever, in general, but in such creative, like volatile, creative
Great boundaries.
conversations
Yeah.
like that, like communication's key. Sincerity is key within that communication. Do it in person, do it on the
Hmm.
phone.
Hmm.
If you have to, voice messages over text. Like it's so
Yeah.
hard to convey that tone
Text is
just
the
in text or
worst.
email,
Yeah.
but like having just come from an office job, so
Yeah.
much gets done via text, via email.
Yeah.
So you kind of lose that tone, you lose that humanity in like more of a
Yeah.
corporate side of things. So to stay on top of that, and I mean, this is a great shout out to the Arden guys. Working
Hmm.
with them was so easy because they'd get on a call the minute I needed something, but also they would be super accessible via text for
Hmm.
just quick pings back and forth, reminders, very
Hmm.
scheduled, timely updates. But also we're always open to that tonal end of like, let's clear this up on a call. Let
Hmm.
us know if you need any more resources. And like that's how you do creativity, and that's how you do business, and that's how you bring the two together, is having
Yes.
that concise clarity and like focus on the human aspect of communication, but also being very obvious and apparent, and like having the
And
text
honest,
follow up,
being
having that
honest
paper
and blunt.
trail with your timeline,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's having the boundaries stated in these concrete ways, and having communication
Hmm.
frozen in those concrete, stored, emailed kind of ways, but also having that open, kind of approachable human sensibility of that we need to have conversation about this, but then okay,
Yeah.
here was our conversation, here's the follow-up, and then here's what we need from that. It's boundaries, it's communication, it's both of those. Nothing happens without that. So
You said it a lot more eloquently than I did. I was fumbling my way through that.
right.
But like that, yeah, that's true. Like it's
No,
really comes down to, and that's what I was trying to say is like at a certain points, if that breaks down though, if that process of having those
right,
conversations does break down, you also need to be, and that's what I was trying to get at, is you also need to be
right.
able to be like, for your own way, like your own math equation, like you're talking about, is
No,
learning how to cut at some point, like you said, swipe. We got to swipe left.
yeah,
and be like, okay, and maybe try your best to not shut a door and leave it at least
Yeah.
cracked open or something, right? But at the same
Uh-huh.
time, and this is something for me as an older guy with some wisdom I would like to impart. Is sometimes you just got to be okay with letting things go. Like certain
Yeah.
relationships are just gonna have to fail. They're gonna have to fall apart. They're gonna, and those are
Right.
not stepping stones in the bad way, in the sense of like learn from that, get back up,
Yeah.
make new relationships. Don't recluse. Don't like try to be like, okay, what can I learn? What can I glean from that?
Call it
Um,
what it was.
is
Yeah. And
yeah, like and
a
move
learning
forward.
experience, not a
Hmm.
failure, not
Not so,
a
yeah,
waste of anything, not a
yeah,
waste of space. It's just a learning experience,
hmm,
and it's an inspiration above
yeah,
anything else. In one word,
yeah.
is just yeah, that kind of, or maybe helpful
Helpful
context.
context. Yeah,
Growth maybe is the
growth,
better
growth,
word.
growth
Yeah,
is a good one.
growth.
Growth
There
is a
we
good one.
go. Yeah,
So
but it's everything.
yeah,
It's
it's everything.
everything.
Yeah,
There
this
you go.
this went down a dark, not dark, but this went down a dark. It went a little dark there. Sorry, my bad. I'm trying to be positive,
No, no,
but
all good.
there is some reality
It's
there.
real. It's
Yeah,
real. Yeah, I'm
and
glad
so
you kept it real.
like there's some factors there. Like not everything's roses and butterflies.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's farts
obviously.
and manure. Um,
Sharks. Yeah. Farts and sharks. Baby.
farts and sharks. Let's go. Yeah. Oh, oh. That was not what I was expecting. Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
right. The wrong kind of stank. The wrong
Yeah.
kind of stank. Yeah.
So on to the positive side. So let's end this on a positive. We're pushing
Sure.
2 hours now. Um, I wanted to touch on. Let's have some fun, lighthearted stuff, and then we'll end with a fun question response. But I
Yeah.
wanted to get, since you have been gigging for a long time, like
Uh-huh.
so 20 years practically, you said. Um, so what has been your favorite gig so far? I'll do two questions, so and then we'll lead into the final thing. So the favorite gig so far, and then if you could play any venue, where would that venue be, or what
Totally.
would it be?
Wow. Difficult questions to answer as a gigging musician because, like,
I
what
want
would
to
be
know
the
your
sarcastic answer?
favorite gig that your venues are watching you right now.
Right, right. For all my homies out there, I'm not picking favorites. This is just no, I'd say the bet it's got to be between two. I had the pleasure of playing the third concert in the series of concerts out here, promoted by the rapper DNA Picasso,
Mhm,
Productions. I'm not quite sure what the production name is, but they were awesome in setting up just this really good networking multi-artist roster each month, every
mhm,
month, tirelessly, a consistently quality performance for artists to network, for artists to touch the community and show them what we've been working on, and to just kind of be yourself and have a 30-45 minute time block to really showcase that and to have an audience at each show. Every show I'd played of that, I'd my first and best one was the third one of that because I think it was so new. There was so much of a honeymoon romance to everyone coming in and being like, "Oh, what's this new shiny thing?" And
mhm.
I wouldn't say it petered out at all. I actually would say it grew as the time went on and found a fascinatingly consistent groove, which I hadn't seen
Mhm.
among the likes of Denver yet. In my generation of music makers here, it's really cool to see that we serendipitously met the R&B Jam Fest at the time where we were really writing, recording, and having some stuff to show, and artists of all types of backgrounds came under the kind of umbrella of R&B. Of course, as long as there's a
Mhm.
through line with that genre, you were able to showcase your talent, and
Totally.
it was just a really spectacular showcase
Like
of that.
special moment.
Yeah, so shout out to the folks who DNA Picasso and the Picasso Gang Productions who put all that together. Sorry if I butchered the name, but
That's
that the
cool.
third one of those was the coolest. It was a packed house. They were holding a line for almost an hour, and it was like because so many people showed up, and I was like, wow, okay, this is a big show, and I just was ready to play with the singer I was there with, and we played some duo stuff, and I had had the chance to play at those series of concerts over a DJ or just duo with a singer,
Mhm,
and it's fascinating because I always treat my duo performances on a build lineup with multiple artists, usually with
mhm.
DJ'd kind of background tracks, not so much a band. It can be dicey when I get up there and just do a duo set, me and the singer, and we try
Mhm.
to command and own the silence. Because I know whoever I'm performing with, whoever's calling me to do that, is calling me because we know we can both own that silence confidently and
Dude, I love that
comfortably.
quote, dude. The owning the
Um,
silence. That's
yeah, it's
such a
real. It's
good
real.
quote, man.
It's real. Make me a T-shirt. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, let's do this.
But I feel like this was a good chance to field test a bit of that duo thing, and I was
Mhm,
expecting with the really excited crowd that was at the third show of this a couple years ago when this all started was just nonchalant, like in a jazz bass solo. Everyone starts talking, gets up, goes
Mhm.
to get a drink refill, and come back for the rest of the song, right? Or the set in this case. But it wasn't that case at all. Everyone leaned in, they locked in,
Oh, dude,
quiet,
the
and
magic.
the singer didn't even have to like scold anyone, which can happen in weird
Yeah.
ways as we've seen live. And
Mhm.
in these lineup gigs, like nothing's really assured. You could have a random not random, but a
Enraptured. You got
curated.
enraptured. People were
Yes, you could
enraptured. They
have
were
an
pulled in.
enrapturing assortment, and then like people are locked into the duo setting as well. And I was just so blessed that I could have a moment to really speak to a large crowd of new people. And in Denver,
Mhm.
sometimes you can have the same folks showing up to your shows, but when you have new folks, like in this case, showing up to your shows, you got new folks make an impression. This is the
It was
first
huge.
time anyone's going to hear of you. And
Mhm.
so me and the singer at the times, Cleopatra, amazing
Mhm.
R&B singer as well. We really killed it. We had a house song come out called Saturday that the people had loved in the duo setting. And then
Mhm.
when she has performed it with the backing track that I created as well. She's gotten amazing
Like
results, and
feedback
everyone always
results.
say, "Hey, what's that song?" So I'm very blessed to have contributed on that creation, let alone contributed to that audience at that
Mhm.
moment in time. As we said, these are
The
fleeting
slices,
moments.
slices of time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Unity can kind of feel sparse nowadays. So
Mhm.
as a musician, your job is very unifying, and your job is to
Yeah,
facilitate a unifying
that's
experience,
true.
regardless of wherever, however people are coming from. So whoever came there that night, it felt
Yeah,
unifying in that silent moment where me and the singer were just doing our duo stuff, and I didn't even expect that crowd or that kind of a reaction, but we got it. So thanks
that's
for the
dope.
folks who put on the gig, and thanks for those who came out. I just hope to have those moments every time. But I don't know. I mean, that was such a formative gig recently, as well as like back when I was with Cy Rainen, a local rapper, and the Bounce Curators,
Mhm.
as we called ourselves in college. We had sold out the Spectra Art Space on South Broadway and thrown just a killer show where it was just like typical kind of rap. Jazzy hip hop band plays what felt like a rock show where just the energy was there, screaming. There's
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a fair bit of inebriation involved. I know there was a fair bit of in a good way, in a
In a
good
good
way.
way, in a good way,
But it
yeah.
was such a fun, big first show for me to kind of have in that collegiate atmosphere, and that was really rewarding as well. Just have big stage, big reception, and there were a couple duo moments of that show where me and Saya sat down and played, and the crowd just quieted up,
Mhm.
listened in, leaned in, and it felt like we really made an impact and touched them in a unifying moment. So it's just I live for those things, man.
Mhm. That's cool. I think, and you know what's funny is I think there's a special dynamic in that, right? In the sense of like
Mhm.
having that duo that you're talking about, like having like where you start playing and then like I talked about
Yeah,
with home, and you had that when you could see like you start
interact.
to interact and dance,
Yeah,
and I think the crowd will pick up on that, and then
yeah,
they that's that lean in, right? There's a magic there. There's a thing, and not that that's
right.
like that's a really cool thing, and if you can tap into that like you do, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Um,
It's not
yeah,
always a given. It's
yeah.
I respect it every time. Like the you as a performer have to earn the audience's attention. You can't demand it, and
Hmm.
the more you demand it, the more you're
You start
losing
to
your
lose it. Yeah, I was gonna say.
entitlement to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's done very nonchalantly, very subconsciously, and
yeah.
you have to
Has to
literally
be
just
natural.
be doing something that everyone in the audience leans in and goes, "Oh, I'm choosing to be interested in this," because they already chose to
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
to be there.
That's
You
it.
know,
They
like
chose
they
to be there.
don't
They're there to listen.
they shouldn't be rude, man.
Yeah,
But
they
like
should. Yeah,
still, like it is
they
a
are
polite
also paying to
courtesy.
be entertained.
They're
So if you're not
talking,
entertaining
they're
them,
hanging.
yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna respond back by not responding at all.
yeah.
And so that's very tangible. And
Hmm.
for me to be blessed with these moments where it is intimate, it is leaned in, and it's acknowledged, like with
Yeah,
the vocalists I work with, and just as a performer myself, I just love that. So
that is really dope.
shout out to the folks who are doing that, and shout out to the work I do with those vocalists, to where we earn that.
Hmm.
We earn that respect from the crowd and that resonance. But the second part of your question, great part, dream venue. Man, I used to think if I could go back in time and like see any concert, I'd probably have to pick Woodstock '69
Hmm.
classic, but or maybe like U2 Blood Red Sky at Red Rocks. But I mean, I being a Colorado transplant, going for my local card, everyone
Hmm.
let me know when I've earned it, because the natives won't give it to me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I do my best. I'll let you in on the highway. I'm nice. I'm a good transplant. I'm a good transplant. I'm trying to be a good part of the infrastructure here. But no, I'd have to pick Red Rocks. I mean, hands down. Come on,
Hmm.
like people don't understand how much like you could look at the bill for Red Rocks every year.
Hmm.
It's a 5,000 cap
Yeah.
facility. Don't quote me on that, but it's around there. It's not Ball Arena. It's not a
Hmm.
massive, you know, big top 40 artist
But
place to
there's
create,
a
but
magic to it though. Everyone
so
talks about the
magical.
magic. Yeah.
It's so real and it's attainable. Like people don't
Hmm.
understand. Like I've had a couple buddies play Red Rocks, whether they're opening or headlining, and it's not a humble brag at all. It's me. It's encouragement for me to
Hmm.
say like that it's doable. It is
Hmm.
attainable. 5,000 cap. That's not a
Let's do it.
stadium. That's a
Yeah.
lot closer to attain than a stadium. And
Hmm.
at that, just go for the stadium, right?
Yeah.
It's all the world's our oyster. So slurp it. Wow. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's
We'll
go.
we'll keep workshopping that
That
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, Red Rocks it is, and R&B Jam Fest, and the folks with that
Nice.
probably my favorites.
Very dope. Okay, so here's the tough question. I'm gonna have you get your guitar,
Okay.
and the question will be, um, let's see, what will the question be? Um, who do you want, like a darker one, or do you want like a more uppity? Like what? Because I have a question we never. I was gonna say that I skipped over, and
Dealer's choice. Yeah, dealer's choice.
so I
If
can
I don't
go
like it, I'll left swipe.
like here. How about this? Yeah, so I'll pose a couple questions. Um, we'll do burnout and how do you deal with it? Do you think you can answer that by playing guitar? So that's my question: is playing a guitar in response instead of actually using your words to answer
Love
it.
it.
So either how do you deal with burnout, or what inspires you?
Can we just combine them?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be a
Yeah.
story.
Let
How
me play to both. Let me play to
you're
both.
dealing with
Yeah.
burnout, but then you get inspired.
Sick. Wow. Hit me with it. Challenge me. Get set up here. Is the audio coming through right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
That was dope, man. That was dope.
Something
I
like that.
I like it. That was dope. I think that's a good point to end on. Hopefully, I didn't. I realized too late that my mic was close to my headphones, and I think I was picking up some of your things, but I muted a little bit. But that was beautiful. That was very
Beautiful.
beautiful.
We're still doing our duties here.
No, that was great. That was very beautiful. I appreciate that. I think that's a
Yeah, it
good.
all comes. It all starts and ends at guitar for me. I play, I produce. Got that new Ripples EP coming out. Got a new EP with Kyron Rashad, locked and loaded for April. Plenty of shows with the mentioned Bennett Lewis, Home,
Mhm.
Kyron Rashad, Honey, Cleopatra. Too many vocalists to name. If I didn't catch them, then hopefully they have the faith to call me back. But thank you for the time, Tyler. You've been amazing. You've been a
No, yeah.
wonderful host. This has been such a good experience, and yeah,
No, this
just
was
really good
lovely.
culminating conversation. So thanks
Yeah.
for the space and the place, man.
Oh yeah, thanks for jumping on and chatting with me, man. This was dope. I actually really enjoyed it. And I hopefully this will be a good catalyst to do more of these down the road, and we'll have to do another. I think next this summer if you come in, we'll have to do like an actual
Yes,
in-person uh
porch play.
porch
Yeah,
play. Yeah, it'll be dope.
guitar of
Get
guitar.
of
You
guitar.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
playing guitar on the porch,
That'd be dope. I think
guys.
we should get some old school. We should go to like a antique store and get a bunch of rocking chairs.
Yeah, dude, let's do it. Let's do it. It's date.
All right. Hell yeah. Okay. Well, I think with that, Don, it was beautiful having you on here, and I'll get all your lovely social media stuff and anything you want me to post a link down below so everyone can check out your stuff. And thank you once again for joining, and this was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So,
Perfect.
uh,
Thanks, man.
hopefully you have a not so busy rest of your day. You can chill and go do some more music, more creativity. All
We'll get to it. Well, thanks, man. Right back at you. See you soon.
right, brother. Cheers.
Peace.